Okay, everybody, are we live here? Okay, now we're live, everybody. So I was talking just to myself, and we have a brand new system set up here. So thank God we got it figured out. I must look like an idiot to Preston right now, but I've never used this before, guys. This is called EveMux. Anyone that doesn't know about it, well, you're gonna know about it tonight. I got tired of StreamYard and I wanted to try something different. So apparently, I guess what I do is I hit live here and then I hit live on YouTube, or maybe vice versa. So, again, I'll just real quick say hi to everybody in the chat. I said it to you guys before. I'm not going to go all over to it. What do you guys think of the new shirt, guys? I got this merch going on, but I want to move immediately to our guest because he's been kind of hold on here. Um, so tonight we have the most prolific and respected voice in the modern UFO and paranormal research field, Preston Dennett. With over 30 published books and hundreds of articles to his name, Preston has spent more than 3 decades investigating UFO encounters, alien abductions, and high strangeness across the globe. His journey began in 1986 after discovering that friends, family, and coworkers were having unexplained encounters. And what started as personal curiosity quickly became a lifetime of serious research and documentation. Preston's extensive body of work includes the best selling titles such as UFOs over California, Not From Here, Volumes 1 and 5. Hold on. Undersea UFO Base, an in depth investigation of USOs in the Santa Catalina Channel, Yard UFO Encounters, Wondrous, 25 True UFO Encounters, UFOs at the Drive In, Symmetry, a true UFO adventure based on the story of contactee Dolly Safran. I remember that one for sure. On board UFO encounters, UFOs over New Mexico, and many more. His research goes deep into not just sightings and abductions, but missing time, contactee experiences, and even healing miracles attributed to extraterrestrial interventions. Preston's expertise has made him a sought after voice on numerous TV and documentaries. He has appeared on the History Channel's Ancient Aliens, UFO Witness Discovery Plus, and Travel Channel, The Unexplained with William Shatner, Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie, National Geographic, NBC Sci Fi, and various international paranormal specials and radio shows. His ability to blend firsthand witnesses, interviews, and historical context and scientific curiosity has made him a fan of favorites among truth seekers and skeptics alike. So we wanted to thank him real quick before we bring him on. And without further ado, Preston Dennett, sir, how are you?
Very good. Very good, man. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much on all of the people here's part and myself. It's an honor to have you.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely. So, getting right in it after the craziness at the beginning of using new technology, I guess, you know, jumping into that part of what we just had working with technology, I wanted to start the show by going way back to Roswell and the crash and into the subject of reverse engineering technology. Supposedly, we have been maybe even before the crash been doing this and been in contact with aliens. What is your opinion of how far and how long back this goes here in America and other countries? Do you believe it's before Roswell, or that was the kickstart?
I think Roswell was definitely a watershed event. But the more I've researched this, we know that there are cases that precede that. There was one in Cape Girardeau in Missouri. I think that was 1940, 1941, thereabouts. Battle of LA, supposedly one was recovered there. Uh, let's talk about one in Italy not too long ago. So I do think, yeah, this has been a big deal for a very long time. Definitely before Roswell, but Aztec crash was around the same time as Roswell. And I think in the 1950s, our government really started to make some real progress on this. A big, huge wave in 1954 in France. And I'm like, why is, 19, October 1954, just this incredible wave over France with landings and humanoids and an unbelievably insane amount of encounters? I'm like, why then? Why?
Hmm.
And I think it kind of coincides with some real big strides towards anti-gravity, which was being done in that country, in that area at that time.
Okay.
So I think I love the work of Michael Schacht. I'm really glad I hooked up with him. If you haven't talked to him, you absolutely should,
Absolutely.
because man, oh man, he has laid it out that we absolutely have had this technology since the 1950s, at least, in terms of utilizing it in reverse engineering. And I think most researchers who are, prolific and have talked to a lot of people have whistleblower accounts. I've certainly got a couple myself.
Hmm.
I mean, one that really impressed me, if I may, real
Of
quick.
course.
This guy worked at Edwards Air Force Base. Now, what was really amazing to me is he contacted me from his hospital bed. He had a chronic disease. He wasn't expected to live long. He didn't. He wanted to get his story out before he died, and he just barely did it. What an honor, that he contacted me and had this amazing story. He was the subcontractor. He
Hmm.
worked at various military bases and was called to do something at Edwards, which he didn't really do. But he said his employer was walking him across the tarmac, and there was a warehouse. What do you call it? A little hangar,
Okay.
and it was had this big open window, and he heard this buzzing sound coming from it. So naturally, he turns his head and looks, and sees a classic flying saucer, tiny little thing the size of a sports car, bright silver, totally shiny, looked like a UFO, hands down. And he turns to his employer and says, "Look at that! What's that?" And his employer goes pale, puts his finger to his lips, says, "No, don't talk about it." Didn't even talk, just said, "Shut."
Hmm.
And they walked on, and he's like, "What was that?" And he's like, "Don't, you weren't supposed to see that. Don't talk about it." And that was all I could get out of him for a long time. Finished the job, left. That same guy calls him back, like I think it was a year or two later. So I've got another job for you. It's an emergency. You're the only one who can do it. And he's like, "I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it unless you tell me what we saw."
Hmm.
And so they got together over some beers to talk about this and had a little, not quite an argument, but a heated discussion. He's like, "Fine, I'll tell you, but you can't tell anybody ever. This could cost me my job. But what you saw was not a UFO, but it was based on reverse engineered extraterrestrial technology." Because this is all he could get out of him, just a little bit. It's a craft that is built on the principle of counter-rotating magnetic fields, where it creates this very strong magnetic field outside the craft, which propels it in the desired direction. So you could basically move this field around either side, and it would scoot this craft along. So that's very much what we hear with a number of these whistleblowers. But he said it looked just like a UFO. It would have fooled anybody.
And very interesting, all the way back then, they have one put together. So, signs that they were way ahead of being able to do reverse engineering, which tells you that they've found something even further back. And some of the rumors, I know Preston, is that, America, United States for one, has been in contact with, races for quite a while. And some of the agreements are for, you know, technology, and they'd give us just little snippets of technology as we go for whatever we agreed to do with them. Let them be here. You know, there's obviously a lot of nefarious rumor there, but what is your opinion about the actual beings themselves and the connection to our world powers?
Yeah, well, it's clear to me that there was some meetings going on. We all know the 1954 meeting at you know, Edwards Air Force Base, as it turns out,
Mhm.
with Eisenhower, and apparently a bunch of people were there. That came out right after it happened. There were some whistleblowers who were talking about it, and a number of researchers have looked into it, and more information is still coming out about this. And of course, one of the rumors flying around with this is that we did trade or made some sort of deal. I followed that back to what I believe to be its source, and I don't find that particular aspect of it credible. I don't think, you know, I'm coming from an angle, mind you, where my specialty is really talking to people who've had direct contact,
Mhm.
and you know, Dolly Saffron, for once, asked them about that, and this, you know, there was no agreement, there was no treaty. They'd never done treaties. They would never, ever hand over technology to a corrupt government, to a violent species. So I think that there was a meeting, and I think that it was all about, you know, you need to disclose, and we're like, we don't want to do that. And they said, we think you should stop using nuclear power and weapons. It's this pathway towards self-destruction. And we didn't want to do that, of course. But, you know, if you look into the history of UFO encounters, there's a number of cases, supposed landing at Air Force bases around the world, really. So it was clearly some meetings going on. But I don't know that that is still going on, and I don't know that we've ever signed it. I cannot see ETs signing a treaty with, you know, because we break every treaty we ever make. So I don't know. It's very difficult to sift the truth out of all of this. There's so much misinformation and
Oh,
disinformation. And
yeah.
again, I shied
I'm
away
sorry.
from. Again, I've shied away from that and kind of focused mostly on the contactee accounts.
Mhm. Um, so I want to bring up one event that occurred. So we all, you know, people that are, you know, obviously in the know about a lot of alien UFO, USO events, to look to what occurred at. Now I just went blank for a second. Um, in New Mexico. Oh, geez, I just went blank. Let me get back to that one. Um,
Yeah, New Mexico has a lot of stuff going on between
yeah,
Roswell,
so
Aztec, and
there was the huge rumor that there was an underground alien base um, under the one range there.
oh, Manzano Mountains.
Was it Manzino?
Um,
No,
Four Corners.
somebody in the chat. They usually bail me out, but we'll come back to that. So um,
Sandia Mountains.
no, no. Uh, this always happens to me when I'm going to give the question. I'll remember one little thing, but that's okay. Um, so you don't think that there's any truth to these rumors that today that we have any agreements with them? What about some of the countries?
Well, I don't think so. You know, I don't find the reporting on that at all compelling. Uh, and again, that's not my area of expertise, but I certainly try to follow everything that's going on. I can tell you one thing: I don't trust our governments when it comes to this subject. And I use that term in quotes, governments, the highest levels of the military, the intelligence agencies, uh, you know, the Pentagon folks, the military industrial complex, which, you know, MacArthur warned about, Eisenhower warned about, several of
Right.
our leaders warned us about that. And rightly so, I think. because they have been just putting out a parade of lies from day one. Do
Right.
you remember in what was it, 2018, a while back, the heads of defense, let me see, Daley and Moultrie, were this is one of the first congressional hearings, in recently. Were asked about Malmstrom. They said we have no reporting on this.
Hmm.
They were asked about Roswell. No, don't know anything about that. It's such a bald-faced lie. Did we ever shoot at these objects? Oh no. Well, of course we have. The Battle of LA is demonstrably true. We've got the documentation. There's photographs. We've got eyewitnesses. My point is they're lying. They're lying about all of it.
Hmm.
So I don't believe that to be true. The rumor mill in this field is out of control.
Yes. One of my moderators actually, BJ Lapierre, God bless her. She got me the name Dulce, New Mexico.
Dulce. Yeah.
That's what it was. So I'm sure very famous story of, I think was it Benowitz was the gentleman who actually got supposedly shot by an alien's laser and marred his body, and was supposedly after he had come out and talked about a story of, for anybody that doesn't know this, contractors, subcontractors were brought in Dulce, New Mexico. There's a military base there, and they had some issues where thick black smoke was coming out from underground, and they dug a hole, and just tons of this foul, odorous smoke came through. They sent one of those little tiny two-man elevators down into the hole, and from supposedly what occurred was they were shocked to see that there were different kinds of aliens that all were rushing to where they had come in. And apparently, the one, I don't know if it was the military policeman or the other gentleman, but an alien was coming to them. I don't know if he was, I don't remember the story, if he was coming, showing violence in his eyes or his actions, but when it got too close, they didn't care. They shot it, which I think is the worst thing to do in a situation like that. You don't know what it is. Don't shoot at it. Maybe it's coming to peacefully speak with you or try. And after that, all hell broke loose. A large alien, a different one, supposedly shot a blue laser out of his hand, which hit Benowitz. And I mean, if you saw interviews he did, he lost a couple fingers. He had a scar. He said it was like went through his whole body, came out of his feet. He had a hole, and he said this military policeman, God bless him, he always talked about it, saved my life. He pulled me and got me in an elevator, sent it up, and he stayed down there to cover him as he was going up very slowly and lost his life, which then turned into a huge supposed war under the Dulce base. And he came out and talked about it. He was a big whistleblower. And
Yeah, was that Phil Schneider or was that Paul
Schneider, thank you.
Yeah.
Somebody Benowitz into the that's what it was. Phil Schneider. Thank you.
Yeah. I remember that story, yeah, and I'm like, whoa, when I first read that. And I'm just going to go out and say what my assessment is, because, I don't know for sure. I never talked to Phil Schneider. He was apparently. I think it's misinformation. I think that's a fictional story. It doesn't match my research at all. I don't been able to get any good confirmation on it. Paul Benowitz was another person who was absolutely a victim of a concerted disinformation campaign. They had him absolutely convinced that there was an alien base. So this is related to that. In fact, was it William Moore who came out and said that he was part of that? One guy in the field, maybe it's that other guy, Doty, I forget who was behind it, but well-known disinformation campaign with Paul Benowitz. But as far as Phil Schneider, yeah, I haven't heard any other story like that. When I hear
Mm,
something that's completely unique, I'll certainly consider it. But I put it on the back burner and I'm waiting for confirmation, and it never has really come. I'm concerned that that would be more of what we would call a false flag. So
mhm.
our government's efforts to paint ETs in a negative light. Our media's campaign, frankly, because they're complicit with this. And that's, when I got involved in this field, I kind of bought into all of that. And I was naive. I'm like reading all these stories. I'm like, oh my gosh, could this be true? And that's when I really stepped back. I'm like, I need to find out the truth of what's going on here, and started interviewing people who had direct contact with ETs.
Mhm.
So my assessment is disinformation, take it or
Okay.
leave it. But yeah, I'm concerned that our governments are pushing forth these kind of narratives. You've heard of my labs, I'm sure, military
Yeah.
abductions, because I've interviewed some people who were victims of that, and
Oh,
they
okay.
came away like, ETs are bad. I'm like, what happened to you? And one guy was taken to Pendleton, I think it's Marine Base actually in Southern California. He was a genuine contactee from a very young age, and they messed him up. He now thinks ETs are demonic. He absolutely does not like them. Where his
Mhm.
early encounters were very good. So this is something I think they do. So we have, yeah, one case, the Dulce Wars. I'm aware of it. It's gripping when you read this stuff. I'm like, man, oh man, could this be true?
Mhm.
I would take that one with a grain of salt. That's my personal opinion as a researcher.
Okay. Well, I mean, I would trust your opinion over 99% of anyone else, Preston. So we have a lot of people actually in the chat talking about Dolly Saffron. So somebody that you know extremely well. Would you mind for those of the people in the chat that are not aware of who she is and what happened? Would you mind giving us an abridged version?
Sure, and I'm so glad you asked because she's my favorite contactee. I've talked to hundreds of people, and most of these people who have had contact, they've got a lot of fear with this, or missing time, or partial memories. And it's rare you find a contactee who kind of has overcome that, doesn't have missing time, and has fully conscious onboard experiences working directly with ETs, not just once or twice. Because most people who have contact, it's definitely usually not a one off, it's many times. There was a guy in Utah, Don Anderson, real good contactee. Another lady up in Maine, she had a lot of information. And then Dolly comes along in 2016, sends me an email, and I responded and started investigating her case with her permission. She was very wary at first, like all contactees, kind of testing the waters with me, which I totally understand. But it became clear to me pretty early on she was for real. She showed all the markers of what I look for in terms of her story and herself. And I ended up doing 6 solid years of interviewing her case
Wow.
because that's how extensive it was. In a nutshell, she had contact really from birth, like most, but started to remember it very early, age 1, in fact, which sounds crazy, but a number of contactees have told me this. But age 14 was having missing time and having a lot of questions about what was happening to her. Had a UFO come down, and she could see the little grays looking down at her, fills up with light. She's freaking out, and boom, it's morning. So she sits down and basically starts meditating to remember everything time because she was already having flashbacks of being on board and was able to just relax enough to remember that, yeah, she was fully taken on board, had an hours long encounter where they were very excited that she had kind of woken up to her contact. There was a shorter little android grays, a taller gray she calls Mama, who she's had contact with her basically her whole life. The ship itself, which is conscious. So she started answering a lot of the questions I personally had about ET contact because, like I said, nobody really had the full story. And boy, did she ever. These ships are absolutely what we would consider embodied or conscious beings. The ships themselves are alive. So many people have told me, and Dolly's like, oh, yeah, they are. I'm like, well, do these grays have emotions? Well, not the little ones. Those are androids. You can shut them off, turn them on. But yes, they absolutely do have emotions, the mid-size and taller grays. They took her on a tour of the craft, told her all kinds of stuff. I actually took her to the planet Saturn. When she told me that, I'm like, wow, I just interviewed a guy who had that experience, Joe Gardner.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
I interviewed a guy who was a Marine. A medic, I'm sorry, in the Navy. He had an encounter where they took him to the moon. They did that with Dolly, too. They've done that with a number of talked to. And she basically started working with them to learn how to fly their craft, which is also, I know this must sound crazy to skeptics, but I've had a number of people tell me this too. So I started working very closely with Dolly and doing interviews, and she gave her life to me. I just want to put this forth because her story is extensive.
Mm-hmm.
I talked to corroborating witnesses, her friends, her family, people who could validate her story. And she got photographic evidence, better than any other witness I've ever interviewed. And you can see it on our YouTube channel. But also medical evidence. She opened up her medical records. This takes a lot of courage for a witness to do.
Oh, my God, yes.
I have to ask the hard questions, like, were you on drugs?
Right.
Do you have any history of mental illness? And all these things, which is not easy to do. And it's very difficult for, I think, sides. But I'm so glad I did, because I got to see the craft myself. I was actually taken on board not too long ago. So this is something that happens with researchers. They become a participant. And this has happened to me before with other people I've interviewed. But yeah, her story is amazing. She's been to other planets. She's been on board when people are taken on board and examined, often healed. It's very closely with the ETs. Yeah, I've outlined her case in my book, Symmetry, but just skimmed the surface. We're putting together a sequel because it's crazy how much knowledge she has about this subject. I'll just close it off with this. It's the most extensive case I've ever researched, easy, and ever even read about. Betty Andreasen, her case is extensive. Jim Sparks, he's got an amazing story.
He does.
Oh, yeah. He's another guy who's like, wow, he woke up to contact.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't suppressing his memory, or he wasn't allowing it. And I think it's a two-way street, the amnesia surrounded with UFO encounters. But yeah, her story is amazing.
I agree 100%. I had, before I I'll just throw Scott. It's been up here a long time. Any theory on how abductees are chosen?
Yeah, I do have theories, and they're largely theories, somewhat speculative, because we do know some patterns absolutely that are indisputable. It does seem to be generational. I've got a case that easily goes back 4 generations. So there's something there in terms of following genetic lines. That's definitely a pattern. I did a statistical study of all my own cases because this was a question I really wanted to know. Who's being contacted? Why?
Mm-hmm.
And it's evenly divided between men and women. People talk about Rh negative blood. I'm like, well, not all people I've interviewed who've been taken on board have Rh negative blood. Mm-hmm. So that's not a hard and fast rule. It doesn't seem to have, somebody once asked me, how come no black people are being taken on board? I'm like, wait a second. I've interviewed a bunch of them.
Mm-hmm.
I think perhaps not as, brought forth.
The Hills.
Yeah, very early case. But
yeah.
Joe Gardner, he's black. Pat Brown, a lady I interviewed, full on contact. She woke up to it too, like Dolly. So it's not race, or I shouldn't say race because we're all the same race. It's not ancestry, but it's not where you're living. Unless you're perhaps in a UFO hotspot, your chances definitely go up. There's a lot of cases where I was driving along on a remote highway at night. So there's an opportunistic element to this that I think in some cases that's why it was easy pickings.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking for, gosh, is it? I started asking people their political affiliation. I mean, I'm looking, there's got to be a pattern here.
Right.
Because it can be elderly people, very young people. It almost always starts at a very young age. One very prominent pattern, other than, this does follow families, is that people who have this kind of experience are profoundly psychic. So what you see is people who've had a near-death experience or experiencing astral projection, mediumship, clairvoyance, precognition, remote viewing, healing. And this can be before the encounter, but after, for sure. There's not a contactee out there who, I don't want to say none, but 80, 90% easy, almost without exception. They're having profound paranormal experiences, seeing ghosts, what have you. So that's a pattern there. I think they are drawn to people. But then I got a huge clue. This was so cool how this happened, because I'm interviewing all these people. I'm looking for patterns. I interviewed this guy who was healed of a blood clot in his leg, Michael Carter. He's pretty famous in this field. It was a great story, He had good confirmation of it. He's obviously a very honest guy. He's a reverend. And it was shortly after that I was contacted by a lady from Norway, of all places, who heard about my interest in UFO healing cases. She's like, well, I was healed. I'm like, oh, cool. Tell me what happened. And she described how she had grays come into her bedroom, flipped her around like a rag doll. She was screaming at them, who are you? What are you doing? Not a word of communication. She said it was terrifying. Put her on her stomach on her bed and pulled out this instrument, kind of like a lint roller, if you know what those look like, a little sort of cylinder with a handle on it.
Yeah, the lint. You mean lint roller?
Yeah, a lint roller.
Yeah.
That's what it looked like. Put it on her back. When she said that, I'm like, ooh, I've got another case of someone who described that same instrument. That's always cool to me, yeah. And she says they put it on her back and she energy going through it. And she's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? No answer. It was maybe a 3-minute encounter. They'd walked through the wall, walked out through the wall. She looked up at the window. It's glowing with blue light. She jumps up and looks out the window. The light flashes off. She can't see a darn thing. That's her story in a nutshell. And we went over and over it. So then I started doing the digging. Do you have mental illness? Blah, blah, blah. All these things. I'm like, was this a one-off? Because almost always people have experiences as a child when they have something like this. She's like, no history of this in my life. I'm like, in your family? She's like, no, nobody I know has ever had. I'm like, have you ever seen a UFO? She's like, well, once, but I was with a crowd of people and it was way the heck up there and we all saw it. So I'm stumped. Hey, what do you do for a living? And she says, well, I'm a graphics artist. I'm retired though. And this is what she said. She said, don't use my name. I'm really well known in my country, in my area, she said, for doing human rights and animal rights activism. Well, that rang a bell because I just interviewed Michael Carter, who had won an award from the president for his fight against racism. Michael Carter's black, by the way. And I'm like, oh my gosh, John Hunter Gray, he was an award-winning social worker fighting for, Native American rights. Like, gosh, Dolly Saffron, she's a nurse. And I started realizing a lot of the people I've interviewed are nurses and doctors, and mentalists and musicians and artists. One guy was an inventor. They healed him in his hospital room and told him, you need to continue your work with the electronics. It's important for humanity.
Wow. So
that's another couple I interviewed. They said they weren't abducted, quote, they were invited on board. And actually asked these, why did you pick us? And they said, we are helping those who help others. And she does herbal healing in Hawaii, where she lives in her community, and has testimonials. And her husband is does social work, helps everyone around the neighborhood with their houses, building, construction and stuff. So that is a pattern I noticed. It's people doing good work for humanity in some capacity.
Mm-hmm.
There's lots of reasons. One guy loved this case. Jim Law in Gainesville, Florida. Didn't like his encounters. They were scary for him, but they happened so much he'd kind of gotten over the fear of it. And he, oh God, Fox Mulder, no. Don't know a single case of in-craft video footage. Not one. Well, close. The Turkey Kumburgaz footage.
That would be a phenomenal if they did.
But yeah, this guy, Jim Law in Florida, had the Greys come around him, and he's like, oh, these guys, again. If you're going to take me, why don't you heal my hernia? And they said, well, we know of this condition that you speak of, and we will repair it. And they did with this little instrument, just a little flashlight-like deal. And he says, why are you contacting me? And they said, we are interested in your genetic potential to live a long time. Direct quote from a Grey. That was like cool. That was cool to me because I've interviewed so many people who are contactees and are elderly and in really excellent health and go to the doctor. The doctor's like, you've got the lungs of a 17-year-old. Your heart is strong. You're doing great. Not everyone. There are some people who have injuries and gynecological problems, and certainly, boy, eyes. The light sensitivity is a huge problem among contactees. Headaches, insomnia. There are some issues for sure. But that one that rang a bell for me as well because I'm like, oh, well, that makes sense. Because I do think healing is one of the reasons people are taken on board. So many people, that's the one thing most people will experience is being physically examined. And I can tell you unequivocally that almost every major researcher out there has healing cases. I cornered Bud Hopkins one day because he never wrote about it, not once. And he put out a bunch of good books. I'm like, do you have any healing cases? He's like, oh, yeah. Yeah, we get them regularly. We don't know what to make of it, but I think it's a good sign. David Jacobs, he doesn't like the ETs. He thinks they're here to take over, but has healing cases, diphtheria, pneumonia, cancer. They all do. Edith Fiore, John Mack, Yvonne Smith, Barbara Lamb. I mean, you name it. They all have healing cases. Denise Stoner, Kathleen Marden. I could go on. Tim Beckley, Brad Steiger, Timothy Good. So that, I think, speaks to they're here and what they're doing.
What about, Press, before we answer Thin Veil's question, what about the people that have found objects in their body? And there was the one famous doctor, he actually passed away. He actually took it upon himself to start taking these out surgically. I forget his name.
Lear, Dr. Roger Lear.
Yes, thank you. What is your opinion on what they are and why they're impacting? Some look like glass, some look like pieces of metal. He had one checked. They had the one, and they said they found the what was inside of it on the periodic table was not a terrestrial.
Yeah, I've done a lot of research into this. I knew Dr. Lear. We weren't like friends or anything, but certainly acquaintances, and have been on panels together. And I interviewed some of his clients, one who did have their implant removed. They came right back, the ETs, and put it back in.
Really?
Oh, yeah. So,
wow.
Some of that's, is this for tracking? Because I think that's the popular belief that this is what they do. Like because we use them to track animals. We do that.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
But from what I understand, no, that's not the purpose. Because one of the first contactees I interviewed was taken on board, and they were implanting her. And she asked, what are you doing? Oh, we're putting an implant in your body. She was one of those people who has full contact. And she said, why? What's this for? And they said, it's to measure the level of pollution in your body. I thought, wow, well, that's interesting, because I had just found another case where the ETs, same sort of thing, told a woman, this is to monitor your health. And I got another case shortly after that. This is to monitor your vital signs, boost your immune system, as what the other person said. So I started paying close attention to this, because almost always when a contactee goes to the doctor at some point, they get evidence of this. Like, you've got scarring in your sinus, or what's this object in your foot? There's something under your tooth here. One guy, he went to, he sets off metal detectors all the time.
Never had surgery.
Never had surgery. Went to the
Wow.
doctor, and they're like, "There's something in here." He's like, "Give me the X-rays." They wouldn't give it to him, and so he had this big argument with them. Finally, they said, "Here's your X-rays." They doctored it out. They absolutely altered his X-rays.
What?
Yes, and I've got other people who've had real problems with this.
No, they're obviously with the government if they're doing something like that, I would assume.
Yeah, well, get this. Here's another case about an implant. This guy, this is in my book, Humanoids and High Strangeness. This case, because he and his mother had an experience together. Neither of them recalled any of it. It was completely, buried in their minds. But one day at age 7, he had insomnia for the rest of his life until he's like 22 years old. And his mom's like, "I'm going to see a hypnotist to stop smoking. You should come with me and they'll cure your insomnia." And of course, this whole UFO incident came out. And he was 7. She was, whatever age, 30 something or other. But she had an encounter at age 7. He, of course, grew up, got married, had kids. His daughter, at age 7, started having encounters. His daughter, by the way, is now grown up, has a young girl. She started having encounters at age 7. So that's 4 generations there. But he took his daughter to the doctor because she was having problems with her nose bleeding. And before he did that, he took her to the dentist, X-rays, and there was an implant in her sinus, a foreign body. And the doctor's like, "Don't worry about it. Don't pay attention." Just was real blasé about it. He's like, "What the heck is wrong with you?" He says, "If you want to go to another doctor, go ahead." He's like, "I'm going to." And so he did, and got the same runaround. He's like, let's not operate it. Let's just ignore this. It's not hurting her. She can deal with it when she's an adult. And he's like, "Listen, this is not supposed to be there. What is this?" And the doctor's like, "I can't tell you." So he goes to another doctor and shows him the X-rays. This is where I'm like, oh my God. The doctor closes the door to his office, sits him down, pulls open the drawer, hands him over this document and says, "If you tell anybody I show this, if you identify me in any way, I will deny it." And he only let him see this document, which looked like an official document, for about 30 seconds or so. But it was a government document which said, if you as a doctor, as a medical professional, find any foreign implant in a person's body, you are to leave it alone under penalty of law, which was imprisonment, fine, loss of license.
Was that from the medical board?
From the government.
Oh my God. Wow.
And I've not been able to confirm this because I know doctors, and they're like, "No." So I don't know. I know I did talk to a nurse, and he talked to medical professionals, and they said, "Oh, we find these things every now and then. We don't know what they are." But if that's true, and this would explain why so many people get the runaround. Like another lady I interviewed went to the dentist. Her X-ray showed this object right under his molar tooth, which was asymptomatic. It was fine. But there's a frickin' marble under his tooth. And the dentist would not give her the X-ray. She had to fight for it. And she got it. She sent it to me. I sent it to doctors, and they're like, "Oh, yeah, that's a foreign body." She went to the previous dentist. Turned out he knew about it all along. Didn't tell her.
Of course he did. He had all her other X-rays.
Yeah, but so this is what I'm talking about. The medical community is, I don't know, there's something going on here. But from what I can tell, these implants are health related. We have pacemakers, we have various implants that we put on people's bodies for health.
Mm-hmm.
One lady I interviewed sneezed out an implant.
Oh, really?
She's vacuuming the floor, achoo, sneezes out, and she's like, "Huh, it's this little cylinder." It's fun because Dr. Lear talked about how they all look, many of them look the same.
Mm-hmm.
They look like a little cantaloupe seed or a little cylinder or a little BB. Those are the 3 main. Some are apparently biological, fizzle up right in your hand and disappear. But this one was metallic. And she's like, she fixes it to the floor, realizes what she's done, and gets down on her hands and knees and looks for an hour or two and can't find the darn thing. She got so sick after that.
After it came out.
Yeah.
Oh, very interesting.
She started suffering from this hypoglycemia type illness that the doctors could not diagnose. But she lost a bunch of weight. She was getting skinny, and she was fainting 2, 3, 4 times a day. Had to walk around with orange juice and a peanut butter sandwich just to try and regulate her blood sugar. She was going downhill fast when she was taken on board. And this 12-foot, no, wait, let me think for a second. Was it 12 feet? Yeah, it was 12 feet tall, this humanoid. 9 feet, well, at any rate, it was enormously tall. 9 foot tall. That's right. Sorry. I was a 9-foot tall humanoid with bright, spiky orange hair. And not human. It had a huge chin, giant eyes, wearing a black jumpsuit. Walks up to, she was in his cubicle. There was a guy across from her. His name was Cooper. That's his real name. So if Cooper's out there listening, he was wearing a red plaid shirt. He was in a daze. She was in a daze, and they're trying to talk and orient themselves. She won't let me use her real name. I call her Jill. Lying on this table, and this 9-foot tall humanoid comes up and says, "Okay, Jill, it's your turn now." And she's like, "Oh my God." And she's screaming because he pushes her down on the table, wraps this thing around her, puts these bell-like silver instruments on her torso, which pulsate energy into her, and she passes and wakes up back in her home. She cannot wake up her family for half an hour. Her husband and 3 children will not wake up. Finally, she gets them up. She tells them what happened. Very supportive. She's just a housewife from Nebraska. He's, I think, a car mechanic. They have she has no idea why she's being contacted, but it does have a long history of it. But apparently it healed her because from that day onward, she stopped fainting and her weight stabilized and she got better. There's a guy in England. He's like, "You are not removing my implant." His case is probably as extensive as Dolly's. Jason Andrews, if you can find that book by Anne Andrews, My Indigo Child, read it. It's eye-opening. He's had direct, extensive contact. And he's like, "No, you're not removing my implant for anything. It's health-related." So I think that's a long answer, sorry. But that's what I think for, honestly.
What did the alien that came up to these people, were they using mind speak?
Yes,
Okay.
almost without exception. I have asked people, have you heard the Greys speak? And it does come up. And often it's described as this high-pitched, kind of squeaky, sing-song voice. So they can speak. They absolutely can speak.
Mm-hmm.
But human-looking ETs, praying mantis, little blue beings, tall Greys, short, tall, whatever, almost always use telepathy. And more often than not, it's concepts and images, but sometimes direct speech. I mean, they will speak, if you're Spanish, they'll speak to you in Spanish. Have no fear. If you're, don't worry, we're not here to hurt you. They'll speak in French or Danish or whatever. So they do speak telepathically in a person's own language often, and sometimes verbal. Verbal does happen, particularly with the human-looking ETs.
Mm-hmm.
But almost always it's telepathic. And it's funny because there'll be 2, 3 people on board, and they're speaking telepathically to each other, not the ETs.
Right. I've heard that.
That's amazing, isn't it?
It's incredible. What kind of technology are they using there? Or are they using something? Obviously, they're activating something that we are not able to use unless we're in there.
Exactly. So I think
that's incredible.
I think that's exactly what's going on, because they come back, and this is when they start having clairvoyance, telepathy, and all kinds of stuff, because that's how they operate, and we have that ability, and this is one of their goals. Mm-hmm. This is absolutely one of their goals with us. Wake up to your own abilities. You have the ability of healing. Away with hands-on healing abilities over and over and over and over again. All of this stuff.
So, well, real quick, because sorry, Fox, I got rid of your last question. How can there be aliens that are essentially anthropomorphic, like praying mantis? And those are supposedly good aliens as well, right?
Yeah, well, I think that none of them are here to intentionally hurt, harm, or fear or take over. I think we would know that by now. There would be no doubt. Even Carla Turner, who takes a kind of dim view, says, "Oh, they're obviously not here to take over." Sadly, she passed away, but she did some good research before she did, and that anthropomorphism, the humanoid shape. When I was a young man and I saw In Search of and other accounts,
Hmm.
I'm like, this is Star Trek. I don't believe this. Second. If there were ETs out there, they would never in a million years look like us. This is pure speculation, obviously, because if we don't know, we don't know.
Right.
So how can you say that there's no possible way? Because the fact is, this is what people are reporting. And that's the good question is why? How can this possibly be? And absolutely, what we're seeing is almost a universal template of the humanoid form. Bipedal beings, 2 arms, 2 legs, a head, eyes, and so forth. Apparently, oxygen breathing as well. So this was a big question of mine. What's going on here? Because some of them look like us.
Right.
Seriously, exactly like us, you wouldn't know. Except maybe they're described as being genetic, flawless.
Real tall. The Pleiadians, is that what that with
If you want to
the
use that term, I don't know that that's
Vikings? Is
accurate.
that what they are?
I don't like the term North
Nor,
because
yeah.
yeah, it's misleading. Because I've interviewed people who've seen these human-looking ETs, and they had, one guy said they looked Mesoamerican, Peruvian to me.
That's
Another guy said,
interesting.
yeah, one guy said if I didn't know better, this guy was Middle Eastern. He had dark skin, very handsome, very strong. So they're human-looking, is my point.
Hmm.
Okay, what's going on here? So, uh, you know, you look at the first-hand contactee accounts, and you'll see that there's a good number of them where people have asked this question. And a lot of contactees get this message. We are actually you. You are us. We are all one. We share a common heritage. We share ancestry. So I think that is the answer to this question, that the humanoid form is the universal template. And the fact is that some of them do look like us. So what is our relationship to them? It's much closer than we think. People have asked, were humanoids? Did humans originate on Earth? No, apparently we did not. We used to live on
Mars.
Mars. Yep. You must be psychic. That's what I was about to say.
I had a near-death experience, so who knows?
So yeah, I think the message is that our relationship to them is so we're essentially all extraterrestrial, if you want to put it that way, in origin, and that the humanoid form goes way, way, way back. Greys have human ET or
Mm.
human DNA. Everyone dials out differently in their ancestry. That's what we're looking at. Whether it looks insectoid or little blue beings or what have you, they're humanoid. That's what the message is directly from the ETs to the contactees. So it's not speculation. This is what people have been told.
Okay. Well, Jack Spring, what do you think of Whitley Strieber and his books and claims?
I am 100% convinced he's a genuine contactee.
Hmm.
And I've spoken to him many times. I don't know if I would call him a good friend, but certainly a friend. Uh, I adore the man. He's amazing. He's had a lot of fear issues with his encounters. He'll be the first to tell you that. He was a horror writer. I think he
Yeah.
was working through his fears by writing fiction and finally like dawned on him, oh my God, I'm having contact. Some people their whole lives up to like middle age, and then finally they wake up. He's a good example of how someone can deny and explain away and bury an encounter, and then suddenly like this is happening to me when they have an encounter that cannot be denied. His
Right.
book Communion is. I did a whole study of like what are the best. Because people ask me, what's the best book to read? I put a list together of 50 books that I think you should read, and his was the top of the list, number one, because it's very well written. It's very sincere. I think it's accurate in his recall. And there are those.
The
Well, he's a
recording is horrifying.
yeah, oh yeah. He does. He's a very good writer. So he's very vivid in his detail, and he expresses his emotions very well. But there are those who are like, he's a grifter, he's just in it for the money. No, he's not. He tried to sell that book and was turned down by every darn publisher. And by this weird fluke, got $1 million advance for the book, and it broke publishing records, even among other books. It was the first UFO book to really sell as well as it did. And then Ed Conroy wrote a book, Report on Communion. Ed Conroy's a mainstream journalist. He's like, I'm going to expose this guy as a fraud. And asked Whitley if he would open up his life to him. He ended up becoming a contactee. He associated so closely with Whitley, he started having his own experiences. But his brother confirmed it. His parents, his sister, all his friends, people would go to his cabin and they would see ETs, grays. His story is 100% valid. Do I agree with everything he says? Maybe not. I don't agree with 100% of anything everybody says. But because I think sometimes fear clouds a person's judgment. I mean, we know this. If you are on board and you're losing your mind and you're afraid, you're not perceiving clearly. You're just not.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's an issue in this field for sure. But I 100% support Whitley. He's a lovely man. He's very intelligent. And boy, did he put his whole career on the line with this.
Oh, man, yeah.
And suffered terribly for it. So God bless him. He's a huge asset to this field. I love the guy.
I agree. I saw the documentary about him. I actually cried at some of the parts, and it's a wonderful man. He asked his wife to divorce him because of everything that was going on. I saw that. And of course, she stuck with him by his side. So I agree. I would love to meet him someday. BJ Lapierre, she's actually an author and an illustrator as well. What do you think about human-alien hybrids?
Yeah, absolutely exists. This is something that, there's this aspect to UFO encounters where sometimes women become pregnant and the fetus is removed. And this is very controversial because some feel like, oh, this is a violation. I'm not sure I agreed to this. But I've interviewed a lot of people who've had this experience. And one lady's like, yeah, I'm not so sure about this, but it did happen to me. And another lady's like, I absolutely agreed to this. And I met my hybrid son as an adult. He said, I'm always watching over you. I'll protect you. Gave her a whole bunch of information. This, of course, happened to Dolly Saffron. Preston has seen my DNA. I have. She has DNA in it that they cannot identify. Ancestry, what are those companies, Ancestry DNA or whatever you call it?
They can't identify parts of the DNA.
No, they can't. And boy, you should contacting her. They so want to talk to her. So I think this is what's going on with the number of contactees. I always ask them about their DNA. One guy, he's a full-on contactee. I'm like, do you have information about your DNA? He's like, yeah, I had it done. I suffer from, let me see if I get this right, uniparental dysautomy. I'm thinking I'm getting that right. He says, all my DNA comes from one of my parents. My dad doesn't know his dad, never knew his dad. There's a lot of contactees who have mysterious, adopted or have a parent that they cannot contact. And really interesting genetics. Many of them are twins, and one twin disappeared in utero. So there's all kinds of interesting stuff. Many describe having lineage that goes back to the royal lines of Europe. So there's a lot going on here. Dolly Saffron's another example of someone who's, I think she had she showed me her, medical documents of this, where she was pregnant. She could not be pregnant.
Wow.
And had her hybrid son come down and heal her after she had slipped and broken her elbow. Saw him face to face as an adult and, of course, as a child. So, yeah, one of my first cases involved that. This daughter was having all these encounters, and then the mother was brought on board and told to hold the babies. So this is one of their reasons for contacting people, to not only uphold our DNA and collect it, but to reinvigorate their DNA, because they've had some damage from various reasons, genetic manipulation in the past, more often probably radiation damaging their own DNA, some problems reproducing and stuff like
Hmm.
this. So yeah, absolutely. And this just goes to show again how close our relationship is with them. One lady, real quick, because this is such an amazing case, contacted me in Nova Scotia, a young couple who, she was 7 months pregnant, 7.5 months pregnant, had an encounter and lost the baby. The doctors lost their minds. And they were having such trouble getting health care. After this, they were all over her, like, oh, come in, She was closely studied after she lost this child at 7.5 months. She sent me the medical records. This is well authenticated. And I got on board and saw her baby. So this is something that is definitely going on. And yeah, they are interbreeding with us. I'm not sure that's the best way to put it, but yeah, hybrids. And I think to an extent, we're all, the whole human race. Uh, I said this earlier, you could consider us extraterrestrial in a way. I don't think ETs have been experimenting on our DNA by any means. What I think they're doing is upholding it, and because I see a lot of contactees who are both contactees, and they're brought together in very synchronistic ways. So, we as humans definitely try to breed the best of our, everyone involved. We're doing our best to weed out diseases and stuff like this. So,
Right.
so I think that could be what they're doing. But no, I wouldn't say that it's at all experimental, or were the result of alien DNA manipulation. I don't have good evidence of that, but yeah, hybrids for sure.
What about the rumor that this hybrid uh, situation could be a try to take over the human race or planet Earth?
Yeah, that is put forth largely by David Jacobs. Um, I will say I think he's a good researcher. His cases are almost exclusively hypnotic regression. I'm not sure he was actually really trained to do that. So I don't want to. He's a historian, but that aside, I know that some of the people, he's had some issues with some of his clients who say that he's misrepresented their stories. Alice Haggerty said that she had a very benevolent encounter, and he painted it as nefarious. So I don't know. I don't want to say too much, but it's easy to have biases in this field. And if you're coming at this from a militaristic point of view or a fear-based point of view, you can reach conclusions which aren't necessarily accurate. I think we need to wait and see, but I don't see any evidence that they're here to take over. One lady I
Right.
interviewed actually asked the ETs that, because they were taking her DNA. She had a baby with them, and she wanted to know. She said, why are you taking my DNA? And they said, well, we're very interested in your DNA because we're reinvigorating our DNA. We're trying
Hmm.
to bring ourselves to be more like you. We're somewhat unemotional, and we're breeding that back in. We're breeding more physicality into our DNA. We've had some problems with reproduction. And she said, are you planning on taking over the planet? And they said, no, no, your planet is far too polluted. It's very crowded. We have access to the entire universe. We have many planets out there we can visit, which makes total sense.
Right.
You would think if ETs can traverse interstellar distances, they're going to come to little old polluted, violent Earth to take over and scare people. It makes no sense. So no, I don't. If they want to take over, I said this earlier, we would know by now.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we absolutely would. Are they going to wait till we, have weapons that could be real dangerous? No, they would have done it, uh, and they could if they wanted to.
I agree.
So no, 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 no. I don't see any indication that that's true. In essence, the ETs have already kind of, I don't like that word infiltrated, but absolutely
Oh yeah.
walk among us to a degree. and have worked very closely with humanity for, we've got good evidence of this, for millennia. They've been around for millennia. We know
Yeah.
that. Cave paintings and
Mm.
hieroglyphs, the Vimanas of ancient Egypt, and Middle Age wood carvings and Renaissance paintings. The Romans called them flying shields, for Pete's sake. They were UFOs
Right.
back then, so we know they've been around forever. And they apparently had great technology way back then, and we didn't even have lights. So, yeah, they've been around. I don't think they're here to take over. I really, really don't.
Well, actually, the Egyptians. Now that was probably shown to them by an alien race. How they found the lights in the pyramids. They
Yeah,
used alkali, and that was really amazing. The Baghdad battery, they call it.
yeah. I think there's some good indications that there were previous iterations of advanced society, like Atlantis, which is,
Hmm.
you know, from Plato and what he wrote, who apparently got it from somebody else. But if, I think, look at the work of Michael Cremo, Forbidden Archaeology. He talks about finding artifacts with, a battery inside of a rock that's really, really old. And Dolly Saffron actually asked about that. I keep bringing her up because, again, she has so many answers. The ETs have told her, yes, there were previous iterations on our planet. A number of people have been told this. Advanced societies, but every so long there's cycles of solar flares and mini novas, and
Hmm.
the Earth tilting on its axis and flooding
Oh,
events. So
not good.
people are lifted off and put back. We're facing one right now, by the way. We're
That's
right.
what I heard.
So yeah, this is
I mean, I'm sorry. Finish what you were.
yeah. Well, I mean, I talk about this a lot in the book Symmetry with Dolly Saffron, how we're at the end of a cycle right now, and so many contactees I've talked to have gotten this message that at some point there's going to be an existential crisis, and ETs are going to come down and scoop they can in a very, how would I put it, picking those who deserve it, not scooping up the warlike people or the one percenters who are so ill and don't deserve, because they're.
Right.
I'll just say it: evil will not be given a ride. So yeah, but they're
Right.
watching over us 100%, and so many contactees have said this: the sky fills with craft, and it's their job to calm people down and lead them on board the craft and have this sort of evacuation.
Well, I saw your dog grown.
Yeah,
Very beautiful dog, by the way.
yeah, she weighs as much as I do about. She's a Great Dane.
I love Great Dane. What's her name?
Her name is Duchess. Duchess, come say hi. Come here, girl.
We're big on dogs here. I had my dog laying in my lap
Duchess.
around the firework time.
Yeah, she's a sweetie. Say hi, Duchess. There you go.
Oh, hi, Duchess.
Oh, she's clobbered me.
She's beautiful.
Yeah, we rescued her. She's
Oh,
absolutely a precious dog. We love
they
her.
all are. God bless you for saving her.
Yeah.
Phenomenal, and they appreciate that too. They have souls and show so much love. Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Um, I'm gonna throw the next kind of question with the A and B on it. So, um, the you say they're not here for any negative reasons, but there's obviously all of these stories about draconians, the reptilian races who are that they can change form, that they also have intertwined themselves into our governments and and high jobs and things like that, uh, about them being able to well, first let me back up. what is your opinion on the Draconians and what I just brought up, how they're supposed to be warlike race and that they're a negative one? Stories out there that, some of these good races that are here to help us have actually been in wars with them.
Yeah, this one is hard for me to answer because I've talked to so many people and I almost never get reptilian accounts. I've got
Oh,
a few. I've gotten a few. There was one, Pamela Stonebrook, I think was her name. Pamela definitely was her name, but at any rate, she said her encounter was benevolent. She loved the guy. He'd come into her room, and Barbara Lamb, she's a prominent researcher in this field, had a benevolent encounter with a reptilian. Dolly Safran, the contactee I work very closely with, had a reptilian encounter while hiking in the Everglades, and it wasn't what I would call benevolent. She felt like this guy was looking at her like food, uh, but could have eaten her if it wanted to and didn't. And I've gotten a few encounters with people who are out in the wilderness somewhere, not necessarily UFO related. And doing some research into this, I'm wondering if they live here on our planet underground. And this is another contactee was told by the ETs that essentially they survived the last extinction event and were among the dinosaurs and do live among us and are carnivorous, but as far as eating people, I'm not so sure about that. I think they've gotten a little bit of a bad rap. I don't buy shape shifting and infiltrating, the Queen of England and all this nonsense.
right.
No, I don't buy that. I think that there's, some truth to screen memories, and Greys can show themselves as, a human-looking person if they want to give that impression and not sort of reduce the fear factor. But it's hard for me to speak to that because I don't get a whole lot of reptilian accounts. I just don't.
Okay.
Reptilians, reptoids, draconians. I don't think there's even a book that focuses solely on reptilian accounts that I find super credible. So it's kind of a lot. The rumor mill on that particular species is pretty active. And I know there's a researcher out there, and I don't want to name him because I don't believe his stuff.
Okay.
With all due respect, some of the researchers out there, I think should be put in quotes.
I agree.
For science fiction writers more than anything.
Right.
And for that, there's some of the contactees too, who are putting forth these horrific accounts.
Right.
This horrible, horrible thing happened to me. I think either you're flat out lying, or you're a government agent,
Oh, yeah.
you're fear-based, or you've been mylabbed. Now, I know
Right.
some people have negative encounters, and I'm not going to gaslight them. That's
Right.
your encounter. I absolutely respect it because this is a very scary experience for people, especially in this we're trained to fear. The fear response is almost universal when people start having encounters. I totally get that. But yeah, the reptilians, I would like to know more about them.
Mm-hmm.
They're a little bit of a mystery to me.
I mean, obviously, if we have all these other races, and they have been mentioned from what I've seen over the years, that suppose some of the other races that we're in contact with do mention them. It's just interesting to think, what truths are there? Did they really come from planet Earth way underground, and this has been their planet all this time? Are they really this warlike race that travels from planet to planet to take them over? I
Yeah.
guess we'll find out.
Yeah. Yes. So I don't. I don't buy that. I think I more. This is just my assessment based on the limited research I've done, or I should say, limited information I could find.
Mm-hmm.
I've actually done extensive research. I think that they are real, 100% real. Very rarely do I see them associated directly with contactees on board, though it does happen. But more often out in the wilderness doing their thing. So I don't know. I'm very curious about it, and I just think that they're one of many different species on this planet. Dolphins, I think, are intelligent.
Oh, yes.
I think they have,
Octopus, supposedly.
yeah, Oh gosh, the information is on octopi. It's amazing.
Not
One,
even from here.
yeah, the one was climbing out of his fish tank and turning on the TV and going back in, using the remote control. I mean, how crazy
I
is that?
heard. Yeah. Oh my
But
God.
we have accounts of little people in every culture. You know, these gnomes, dwarves, call them
Hmm.
what you want, which Jacques Vallée has kind of looked at and said, oh, well, maybe, this is something that's putting on different masks and posing as ET. No, I think we have little people because, I've interviewed some people and I did some research on that and I got a big response on a YouTube video I put out. We were like, oh, I saw a little person and he had a little vest on. And so it was something that was from, the 1800s or something. No,
Hmm.
modern day accounts of what we would call gnomes, fairies, and dwarves, and have names in each culture. It's amazing. We so we're dealing with angels. We have demonic beings. We have nature spirits. We have little people. We have Bigfoot. We have Dogman. We have all kinds of stuff we're dealing with here that some researchers are conflating all together. I don't think that we should do that. We've got to step back here and because I don't think ETs are demonic by any means.
Okay.
Because that comes up too, and I'm like, oh my god,
Oh yeah.
let's do research on that, and I did. I've interviewed people who had demonic haunting way up to possession, nasty, horrible, dark spirits.
Hmm.
Not ET. It's not ET. So that is something I did a lot of research on. Angel, all of the stuff. You see my bookcase back there. It goes all the way down the hall.
Yeah. That's incredible. I was looking at that a little bit ago. It's quite a collection.
Yeah, because I really want to figure this out, and I work real hard. I've tried to really not only interview people about just ETs, but the paranormal as well, because there's connections there. And I've done ghost hunting, and I went Bigfoot hunting too, and researched out of body experiences and did that too. I've seen UFOs. It's not enough for me to just read about it, not enough for me to talk to people. I want to see it myself. I want to
Mhm.
experience this because then you move, because there's a big gap between belief and knowledge. True knowledge comes only from personal experience. You can read every darn book you want. You still won't know until you experience it. So I think all of us really need to stack and separate because it's fine to believe stuff, but doesn't mean it's true. You have to really do your due diligence, really use discernment, open minded skepticism, thorough research, and work. Wisdom comes from knowledge, knowledge comes from experience.
Mhm.
And belief is, in essence, delusion, because if you don't know, you don't know. So you have to be very careful with our belief systems. And this is where I think we really run into problems.
Well, I did want to say this and bring it up because a lot of people, it's a popular, uh, matter. People speak about it all the time. Is the Nephilim being fallen angels and giants, and that these cryptids like Bigfoot and Dogman, like what I saw, and that they are Nephilim. What is your opinion on the Nephilim and that kind of area of where people bring up that subject?
Yeah, it's funny because not too long ago I heard about giants and I did my research on that. What a shock that was. I had no idea how much evidence there was for giants on Earth. There's no doubt in my mind that, yeah, we had giants walking among us in the distant past. There's
Right.
really good evidence for this. Uh, and as far as, the angels mating with humans, and we've got biblical accounts of this, there's all kinds of ancient writings of this sort of thing. So it's very hard to unpack because we're dealing with a society back then who didn't have access to the scientific knowledge we have today. I love science because this is something that has really been able to build a base of knowledge that you can trust to a certain extent. Of course, knowledge, science does become a little bit of a closed system and rejects evidence that doesn't fit the current paradigm. So it makes it difficult to expand our knowledge base. It's really interesting to me that some of the accounts of angels say the same things ETs are saying. They come down and say, "Have no fear. We're not here to hurt you." This comes up in a number of angelic accounts, which makes me wonder, could some of these have been misinterpreted ETs? I don't know. This is not my area of expertise, but I certainly find it compelling. I think angelic beings do exist, demonic beings as well. I've gotten a few first-hand dog man cases. It's funny. I didn't know what to do with those until
Hmm.
that one lady. What was her name? She wrote The Beast of Bray Road.
Oh, Linda Godfrey.
Yeah, love her. I had spoke with
Oh,
her. She was amazing because she really like brought it to the forefront. I'm like, oh my gosh.
oh, she did. She's one of my people I look up to. We lost her, unfortunately.
Yeah, very sad. But what an amazing lady who, you know, was able to move past her belief system and skepticism. You know what? I'm just going to research facts only. Let's figure this out. And amazing. So yeah, there's a lot going on. The Nephilim, I think, I don't know enough about them.
Hmm.
You know, you got to bring Matt or you got to bring Dolly Saffron on because she can talk to this straight from the ET's mouth.
I already sent her a little message in the chat. So she said you have her contact information. So I got to get that from you after the show. She definitely will be on here.
Yeah, because some of the questions you're asking me, I'm like, gosh, she could probably answer this one. That one she could answer better than I could because she's heard directly from the ETs about the Nephilim.
She's putting up. Let's see. Here's one because I haven't been able to. That's moving so fast. ET calls God the All Mind. We are all from that.
Yeah, a lot of people ask about, do the ETs believe in God? Yeah, one guy asked him flat out, what was his name? Walter Rizzi from Italy. So do you believe in God? And the ETs looked at him like, what? Yes, this is God all around you. To themselves and to him. All of this is God, which I thought was an interesting answer. And that's usually what they'll respond, something along those lines. But
And
yeah.
I agree 100%. Demons exist.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
so much proof through the Bible and way beyond that. I mean, you have exorcisms that are done by the church, and they freely admit it. So,
100%. Yeah.
yeah, I've seen some scary stuff, some actual exorcisms that were not acting, and very disturbing, some of it, and what goes on with these beings. Some of them, you're bringing up, the paranormal, ghosts and things. You have other instances where people have demons in their homes and causing all kinds of problems, literally physically hurting people, to just destroying people's lives, and people having to move out of the homes. And then you have situations where sometimes they're followed. They have a hitchhiker that goes with them. Before I veer off too fast there's one thing you had mentioned. And thank you so much for everything you're telling us. Amazing stuff. You had mentioned real quick some different things, cryptids and such, and you mentioned goblins, and I just watched a documentary called Hillier. Did you see that? Hellier. It's
No.
it's phenomenal. It's on. I highly recommend you watch it. It's on Prime Video. Hellier, Hellier, Kentucky, and it is basically a documentary that is a tie to, I think it was 1952. The family in Kentucky that were besieged by goblins. They came down in the UFO, and they had the 11 or 12 people in that little farmhouse, and they fought for their lives all night. Well, there's in this documentary a doctor, and I believe he used a pen name, so they didn't know who he was, wrote a letter to these two people that were paranormal people that the ghost hunted, and he basically pleaded to them that he had been in a farmhouse he had purchased with his family in Hellier, Kentucky. Only been there 6-7 months, and there's a fruit fly in here, and sorry, and these things just like in Kentucky, he said they came from a nearby mine, just like it happened in 55 or 52. They started first, it started their child, noticed them first, told the parents, I saw little bald peep kids playing in our yard last night. And then the adults saw them, actually got some pictures which are very intriguing. The number one thing that they got picture wise, because when they ask these people to come, they say, you gotta give me some proof of what you're talking about. We're not just gonna come here. The people, they were in Canada at the time. They're in Cincinnati now, but they're like, we're not going to drive to Kentucky without some real proof. And the pictures are intriguing, like I said, but the thing that blew me away the most is they took pictures of the footprints that they made in the mud, and you can see their three toes, and they have the striations in the feet, and you can see the lines in the feet and in the mud perfectly, and it's really incredible.
Wow.
So I just was curious, your opinion about those beings.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out. I haven't heard of that. That sounds interesting. There's a lot of footprint evidence for various, what do you call them, cryptozoological creatures.
Hmm.
And I guess you would call those cryptoterrestrials, uh, which is a term I thought was kind of intriguing because that very neutral. And I think, in cases all these beings we have that we don't know a lot about, but are apparently from here. Goblins, yeah. If you look into the culture of Europe, there's statues everywhere. There's got to be a reason for that. That this is something that is just ubiquitous. I love that word. All present throughout society. I had to look that one up. So ubiquitous. Uh,
Well, we saw the use of it.
but yeah, I think that there's because most people aren't going to talk about this. I am sure people are having these kinds of encounters all over the world, and they're not going to talk about it. They'd sound like crazy.
Hmm.
People, they have real courage and fortitude and uh, come forward. And God bless them if you can get evidence. Man, oh man, I'm going to have to look that up.
Yeah,
It's
please,
interesting
please.
because
I want your opinion.
you know how people call Bigfoot by different names wherever it is,
Yeah.
Sasquatch or Bigfoot or the skunk ape, or in China it's Almas, or they've all got their different names for it. And we see the same throughout the United States, even alone for little people, the Green Man or the Boogle. They all have these little funny names for these little creatures in their
Gremlins.
particular area. Yeah. So I wouldn't doubt it. I am slowly branching out more into that sort of crypto terrestrial area because
Hmm.
UFOs, and ET alone is a lot. I resisted Bigfoot forever until I couldn't because I was getting cases, and you have to follow the evidence where it leads, or you can't really call yourself a scientist. So, yeah.
Uh, BJ Lapierre, author and illustrator, says my friend Pastor Kurt and he told me that there were definitely bipedal dog-headed men back in the biblical time. He's the one who referred me to the book of Enoch to learn. BJ, those are the Cenocephaly, and she's correct. I've talked about this many times. I actually, when I was researching, beings like this after my experience with my three friends, when we had a dog man come after us when we were 14, the Bible, talks about, I think it was Saint Christopher possibly, who had went to an island of dog-headed people, and again, they're called the Cenocephaly, and so that goes way back there, and being able to
Yeah, well,
show
look,
that
look
these
look at the Egyptian hieroglyphs of the dog.
Anubis.
Yeah, you're gonna love talking to Dolly Saffron. She saw these beings on board a UFO. I talked to a lady who saw cat beings as well. Uh,
I've heard of that.
but yeah,
Very interesting.
Dolly had some direct encounters with these folks who
Well,
are
I would love to
there.
have her on.
Yeah, it's amazing. She described. She said you can even smell them. The whole deal. They growled. They were absolutely intelligent. She's had more than one encounter with them. So very interesting stuff. There's a lot more beings out there than most people have any idea of.
That's so interesting. Hey, Rye, nice to see you here. Um, yes, or lichens, Rye. So I'm actually curious. Dolly is here, which I just wanted to say real quick. I said it in the chat. I typed it. It's an honor to have her stop by here and talk. We were discussing her. You said that they smelled Dolly. What did they smell like? I'm just curious. Um,
Um, as I remember, just like dogs. Primates have a
okay.
very powerful smell. We've all smelled wet dog fur, kind of that sort of thing. Uh, they they had a biological smell to them, as do all beings. People say, "Oh, they're interdimensional." I'm like, "Well, who isn't interdimensional?" Well, we're interdimensional beings. We can go out of body. We have experiences. Go to the other side. Ultimately, we're going to live there. So,
Mhm.
canine. Yeah. Uh,
Rye Voss, a good friend of mine, just came in. I got you two together. You're going to be going on Rye's show not too far from here for an
cool.
interview. So Rye, a good buddy of mine, Dolly says smelled canine.
Yep.
Let's see, Jack, great guy here. What about Dr. Jonathan Reed, the alien in the
Freezer. Yeah.
freezer story? Do you think he's genuine?
I heard him speak. I saw the film. This is one of those what I call outliers. These are one of the stories I put on the back burner and looking for further confirmation. There are some researchers who swear up and down he's telling the truth, and some researchers who have brought up some very valid questions that, certainly raise questions about the authenticity of his report. I got the book. I have some questions about it myself. I'm not going to. I'm gonna stay on the fence on that one, if you don't mind.
Of course, it's your
I want to be
prerogative.
respectful. I don't know, but I'm gonna call it an outlier that doesn't really match the kind of encounter all the people I've interviewed.
Mhm.
So that's why I'm like, I don't know.
Right. And there's definitely got to be some. I want to correct myself. You already were on Rise show Codex of Curiosities. So my apologies there. I thought that was coming up. Um, Somebody else had a question about. I think they brought it brought up the Greys, and I was curious. You hear these other stories out there that yes, they're androids, they're alive androids, which is really mind blowing to think of. Um, but that some of them are evil, and I don't know if just because they do the testing, if people think that makes them evil or something. But there's ones out there that there's different sized ones, and that the bigger ones are part of a takeover kind of race or something. But touching on them being these androids, did Dolly or anyone else talk to you about the fact that they're alive yet they are androids and they were made, and is there any of how they were made. Have you ever heard anything like that?
Yeah, I absolutely have. And I've, talking to a lot of researchers, this kept coming up. I think the first time I heard it was from Whitley Strieber, and he
Mm-hmm.
talks about going on board and seeing these little guys and they mean shut off and basically stacked like cordwood. I'm
Oh,
like,
wow.
wow, that's exactly my reaction. I'm like, so what is going on here? And this became one of my questions I would ask people, because, the answer I would usually get is that these were the short little ones who weren't emotional and were the ones who would usually pull people on board. And once on board, they would see the taller ones. One would be the sort of, I don't like handler, but the liaison sort of,
Mm-hmm.
and who would be very nurturing and would answer people's questions. While these little ones, no emotions, very much doing the grunt work, and are like empathetic, I guess would be the way of putting it, and causing people to think, well, these guys have no emotions. It's
Mm-hmm.
confusing for me, and I'm like, I think these are two different types of beings. And I kept hearing more about that, and I'm like, someone would say, they're moving in lockstep. I think they're robotic. I'm like, I think so too. So Dolly comes along. That was one of my first questions. I'm like, are there short little grays and are they robotic? And she said, well, yeah, actually they are. They're biological androids. They're not ensouled, embodied. They don't have a soul. They're not born. They don't die. They're constructed. But they do have a certain level of autonomy, awareness, and absolutely interact with people. And are the ones who do kind of the jobs that might be too dangerous for a biological being, and are often assisting in bringing people on board and doing all kinds of things uh, as well on board. And I'm like, do they shut off? And she's like, oh, yeah, I actually know how they shut off. And she can go into this in great detail. I'm like,
Wow.
do they, how does this work? And she says, well, they store them all in a room. They all go lock their arms up and they put them in, and they're turned off and they're pulled out and turned on when they need to be used. Can actually be used as avatars. That's more rare because they are semi-autonomous, but are biological androids, not alive as we would think of it, but definitely to some degree are living beings. So that was one of the many holes of my knowledge after interviewing people for, gosh, I'm working on 40 years at this point of
Wow.
doing this. So
Congratulations.
thank you. And yeah, it's become my life's work. I never in a million years thought that happened, but absolutely. Yeah, I think they're biological androids. The little 3 foot tall, sort of clunky grays that walk around and can
Mm-hmm.
move quite quickly, really, but generally quite short. Whereas the more willowy, thinner grays with arms that reach down to almost their knees, and the big oval heads with the wraparound eyes, are
Right.
beings just like us.
Well, that's incredible. And I want to say real quick, thank you also for you've been doing this just under 50 years, all the work that you have done and the research you've done. I just want to say thank you from all of us, especially from me and my brethren and people in research and I can't tell you how often I look at your work for looking stuff up for UFOs, USOs, anything extraterrestrial connected. So I just thank you so much for all of the
Well,
diligence that you've had over the years.
yeah, well, you're welcome. I appreciate that. I think it's an important subject, and it just burns me to no end that the way this has been bungled and mishandled and covered up.
Yep.
This should be taught in schools. This is an important subject. We have the right to the truth. Who do these guys think they are that they can cover this up and lie about it? It's so unfair. I'll tell you what the ET threat is. It's not to humanity, it's to the cabal, to the power elite and their control over humanity, to their money, to their lies and their fear narrative. That's the ET threat, because that's all going to go away at some point.
Right.
people learn the truth of the fact that we're not alone, and that there are societies out there that operate without money, without a federalized system, without kings and queens and presidents, and without corruption, and have conquered illness to a large degree and live in a different way. We're not supposed to be enslaved like we are. This is ridiculous. So I think that's largely one of the reasons they came down beginning in 1947, because we were on a path towards absolute irreversible self-destruction. And we're not growing spiritually at all.
No.
So I think ultimately that's why, because it coincides exactly modern age of atomics, the atomic age, and with the fact that we had DDT in every piece of biology on this planet, even at the bottom of the ocean. We were basically killing ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when ETs came down and said, you know what, we need to bring people on board. We tried the governments. They're not listening. They're not following our advice. Let's do a grassroots movement. And they 100% did disclosure. We have 1 million documented cases in various databases like MUFON and New York and APRO and QFOS and all. And that's just the United States. There's easily, I think, about 500,000 cases documented in the United States, which is a small portion of Earth, really.
Right.
Absolutely, ETs have done their part for disclosure, and the rest is up to us. We need to elect leaders who have our best interests. We need to move past fear. We need to allow love and truth to guide our actions, and really, stop killing each other. That's simple. Stop hating each other. Get equal distribution of the wealth, because there's enough for everybody. We have enough food and to feed the entire world.
Yep.
We have enough money where everyone could be rich. It's ridiculous that the small segment of the population is hoarding the wealth. It makes zero sense.
I agree. There is so much, small-mindedness still going out there. It's really upsetting to see it. When I hear people talk about, and my mic was moved over. I hope people can hear me well tonight. All the people out there that doubt that there are other races out there, that the planet Earth is the only planet in the universe that has anyone alive on it, and it's just not possible that's going on. We are it. And the small-mindedness, I do think that has been changing for a while. But real quick, just your opinion on small-mindedness. I always say, mathematically looking at how many, we don't even know how many planets are out there, but it's just mathematically impossible to think that we're it. It's just foolish.
Yeah, it's called the Fermi paradox. If ETs are out there, where are they? Well, you haven't done your research if you think that there's nobody around. It's funny, SETI is out there listening for radio waves, and ETs are, in the neighborhood, so to speak.
Right.
Yeah, skeptics, I understand. I came into this field as a complete diehard skeptic. But even I, at a young age, look at the stars and wonder and kind of know there's got to be something out there. I mean, it's undeniable. It's the height of arrogance and anthropocentrism to think that we would be the only one. And the evidence is that we're not. I mean, it's screaming at us. It's not just eyewitness testimonies. People say, oh, there's no proof. I'm like, hold on a second. What are you talking about? Observation is the foundation of science. And if you have 1 million people saying something, you have to pay attention, because to ignore it would be wholly unscientific. And let's face it, UFOs have been photographed. They appear on radar. There's landing traces where the ground has been glassified, clearly 3,000 degrees up to turn sand into glass, or radiation readings, or thousands of pounds of pressure on the sand. We tell exactly how heavy this object is. It crushed
Right.
railroads. The Trans-en-Provence case in France, great evidence. The implant removal cases. Thank you, Dr. Roger Lear, for the work you've done, because that's a smoking gun. But
Uh-huh.
the 300, I did a whole book on healing cases. There's 300 plus documented. I could double that easy now because so many other people have come forth. But the animal reaction evidence, the electromagnetic disturbance, the thousands of pages of government documents, the whistleblowers, the accounts of UFO crash retrievals and reverse engineering, the evidence is there. Angel hair, we didn't even talk about that. That's
What's way you can't don't go past that. Go ahead. What's that?
Yeah, angel hair is not that well known, and it should be, because it's this substance that is apparently the result of the superheated plasma fields surrounding objects. Because there's a good 100 well documented cases where this spider webby, almost cotton candy like substance is, we thought it was being ejected. Dolly Saffron told me, oh, I know about that. This is just a result of the pollutants in our atmosphere interacting with the plasma field surrounding these craft.
Okay.
If this substance comes down and it sublimates very quickly, it dissolves very quickly in most cases, but not always. It's been collected, it's been studied in scientific labs. It's got, gosh, I've got the list of elements on it. What is it? Boron, magnesium? I forget. There's some elements that are present in it, which shouldn't be just lying on the ground there.
Right.
But absolutely, it's a type of physical evidence that is directly associated with these craft. We got to stop calling them UFOs. They're craft. They're
Yeah.
extraterrestrial craft. I think this whole idea, let's call them UAPs. I'm like, no, I don't like that term. What are you
I
going to
don't
call
like
me?
it. Yeah, I'm just gonna say I hate that word.
You know, I'm not even keen on being called a ufologist, but fine. But don't call me a UApologist. That has a bad ring to it.
What
No,
would you like to be called, Preston?
a researcher. That's all. The UFO expert. People say, I'm like, well, hold on a second. Dolly is more of an expert than I am on this subject, and she doesn't call herself that. She's just someone who's had experiences.
Mm-hmm.
I think we love labels. We love to try and name
Yeah.
everything as if that solves everything and explain everything. It doesn't. This is why research is so important. Yeah, I'm a researcher, author on this subject, and I'm very blessed to be able to do it. It's in my family. My sister-in-law has had encounters with grays. My other sister-in-law encounters with little blue beings. 2 nephews, my sister, and my brother. There's 6 kids in my family. So 3 of us have had direct encounters. So yeah, my dad would never talk about it. Never had a chance to ask my mom about it. Never, or my grandparents except one. And my grandmother's like, I won't talk about that. It's against my religion.
The generations too. The older generations just they didn't like to talk about that stuff.
Yeah. But
Would you mind? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
no,
I was just going to ask you, would you mind to let everybody here know about your personal experiences?
sure. I could do a whole show on this, Matt. So I'll give you the nutshell version.
Okay.
As a young kid, I had missing time once where I missed lunch. 6 kids, you don't miss lunch. I'm like, why didn't you call me? I was in the bedroom. Like, no, you weren't. We checked. So that was weird. And
Very.
I always wondered about that, and I only kind of clicked to it fairly recently, because you scour your past when you figure out this is in your family and you're having experiences. It's like, gosh, have I explained stuff away? Well, that was one very early thing. In 1992, after I'd been involved in this field for a good 5 years or so, in July, I was driving home from my brother's house who had seen a UFO, and his wife who saw ETs. And this little orb came down right in front of my car, right in front of my windshield, and darted off. I had missing time, absolute missing time. I didn't even remember that until months later when it popped back into my head. At that point, I'm starting to dream that I'm on board a craft and different dreams. This is feeling memory of, seeing energy free motors and star fields and all kinds of really cool stuff. And had other encounters where I'm seeing anomalous lights, sometimes getting a telepathic message. One came down over the freeway of all things, said, "Your niece has just been born." I'm like, what? That's crazy. Of course, she was born on, I'll never forget her birthday because of that, July 9th.
Wow.
So this is slowly circling around me, and I'm seeing these anomalous lights. And a couple of times, craft. One time I'm in bed, and I could have sworn there was a cat walking across my bed. But I don't have a cat, back then. So, of course, that woke me
No.
up, right? Because it felt like footsteps on my bed. Bipedal, I should say. And I opened my eyes. I'm lying on my side, and I saw something about that thin, so thin. I couldn't have been more than a foot wide and grayish. This is a dark bedroom. I like pitch black when I sleep, but light still leaks in.
Mm-hmm.
This dark thing darts out like nobody's business. I mean, faster than a human. My heart thumped so hard. I just rolled over and went back to bed. It's funny because I've talked to contactees. They're like, "Oh, I had an ET in my room. What did you do?" "Oh, I went back to bed." Like,
That's
what?
odd.
Yeah, you don't react as you thought you'd think you would sometimes. And I
You think they
experienced that.
put you to sleep?
I don't know. I'm not ready to say that. I think the human mind has an adverse reaction and sometimes just prefers like, no, I'm not going there. I don't know. It's possible. I've done some research in this. I'm leaning now more and more towards it being more us than them.
Mm-hmm.
But I think kind of, there's a give and take there. But ultimately, cutting this short, because I go outside and be like, "Where are you?" And something would appear. Like, holy smokes, this is insane. Or you get an impulse to go outside and something shows up. I'm like,
Wow.
damn, this is crazy. But my best experience was on my birthday, which was really cool because this comes up in a number of cases, like the July 9th ET coming down and uh, telling me my niece was just been born. Weird stuff like this. So it
Wow.
was my birthday, and this is the best birthday present I ever had. I tell you, I was dreaming, and all of a sudden, I'm not. There's this hole in the wall, is what it looks like to me, and I'm pulled up through it. And I'm like, holy smokes, because now I remember it. I remember this feeling. It's very electric. It's like a mild shock, and I'm hurtling through space. Like I'm being taken. This is insane. Oh my God, and I'm awake. I am going to remember this. Right, this is going through my mind. And boom, I'm in a craft, lying on a table. I'm like, wow, this is insane. I've interviewed so many people, and here I am experiencing this big room, 40, 50 feet wide, rounded ceiling, very clean, very smooth, very peaceful, very wonderful. I don't know how else to describe it. Little guys
Mm-hmm.
around me who I did looking at because my attention was caught by this lady who must have been 6 feet tall, who was very thin and wearing this shiny white jumpsuit. And she was beautiful, but not fully human. She had these big wraparound eyes and tiny itty bitty little nose and a tiny little mouth, very tightly curled white blonde hair, and just amazingly beautiful. 'Cause I was just fascinated by how she looked because it was different. And trying to hold me down and say, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "I'm fine," because I'm trying to get up. I want to get up and explore. She's like, "No, no, no, no. We need to check you out." I'm like, "I'm fine. I'm fine. Let me up." And this went back and forth, and she's like, "Okay, get up." And so I jump off that table. Honestly, it was a low table, and walk straight to this 7.5 foot tall gray with a large head. And really interesting end note to this whole story. Don't let me forget. She's beautiful. She's absolutely radiating wisdom and grace and elegance, and has these beautiful eyes. And she tilts her head. She's wearing a white smock. "So, telepathically, is this what you thought it would be like?" And I said, "No, it's much better. This is amazing. Can I explore? She said, go ahead. And I walked to the side of the craft. It had these windows that were at 45 degrees all the way around the edge. And I looked down. There's the Earth curved. It's definitely a globe, all you flat earthers. It's a globe.
I
I saw
agree.
it. And so we must have been hundreds of miles up. I don't know. I'm going to try and determine this by the curvature of the Earth, but you could definitely see it. It wasn't out there, a globe way far away. It was, but we were way the heck up there. And I walk over to the other side. There's people there. Some are in a trance. And there's another lady who's fully awake. I'm like, she's excited. I'm going to talk to her because these other people aren't answering my questions. I'm like, who are you? What's your name? This is cool. They're like, they're in a trance. They're hypnotized. I don't know. And I'm just about to talk to her and ask this lady her name when the craft drops down to Earth in 1 second. Boom. We're right above the surface of the Earth. It rocks slightly. It was really cool. It goes shooting back up. I walk back over to this tall gray, and she gives me this glass of liquid to drink. A sort of thick glass tumbler. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
filled about a third with this greenish liquid, which was real bright and thick. I sniff it. I don't really smell it. And I take a sip. It's thick like cough syrup and tastes good. It's very subtle. It's kind of kiwi lime is how I'd put it, but subtle. And she takes it back. I'm like, wait, I want another sip. She looks at me like I'm crazy. She's like, okay, fine. If you want another sip, go ahead. And I did, and I blacked out. Woke up in bed.
Oh,
Called Dolly Saffron, of course, because she's my go-to gal. And long story short, that was her craft. That's her contacts. That was Mama, her main ET liaison. So this is what you get if you associate closely with contactees. Yeah, the tall gray is Mama. So people can be skeptical all they want. I know because I've been there, done that. And it was the coolest experience I've ever had. And, that all bets are off. I know it's real after that experience. I've had quite a bit more than that, but that was the big one.
that's absolutely incredible. I mean, um, I don't. Do you remember like what the instruments that they were flying it with were like at all?
Well, I'm glad there was nothing in there. There was the tape.
Really?
Yeah. And this is what a lot of contactees describe. And if someone gets really into like, oh, there were buttons and all kinds of computer equipment, I get a little skeptical because most people tell me, no, it's surprisingly sparse. There will be occasional reports of colored lights or something along those lines, or instruments coming down, particularly in a medical procedure or a healing. And things might rise up out of the floor or the walls or cabinets, this sort of thing. But no, I did not see the engine room per se. I asked Dolly about that, and she's like, well, you weren't in it. That was another level up. And they will give you a tour of the craft. My experience was 5 minutes long. I didn't have that opportunity. But man, oh man, that was such a cool experience. They fly these craft psychically. I've had people tell me this from these. So I asked Dolly about that, and she's like, "Oh yeah, they taught her how to do it, so she had to go through years of testing and training,
Wow.
and she learned how to fly these craft. No joke. And I
That's
got to believe her.
incredible.
I was taken on board, and I saw this, uh, and it's so cool because I've had other experiences, and it's very clean, it's very sparse, it's very smooth. No seams in the walls, anything like that. Uh, and if they can open up the side of the craft, so like a window, but you don't see any glass. You don't see anything. It looks like you could jump right out.
Oh.
You've seen the Milky Way, pictures of it. It is
Mm-hmm.
so different. It is so different when you're on a craft and they open that wall up. I was gobsmacked. I was flabbergasted. I was awestruck. I was numb with shock. I've never seen stars like that before in my life.
Did
I
you get nervous with the way it was open like that?
no, I feel very comfortable. Uh,
That's
I went
awesome.
running up. It was amazing. Yeah, I froze there for a second. Did you get that?
No, I lost you for a sec.
Yeah. No, I didn't get nervous at all. It was absolutely thrilling. And it's kind of like standing on the balcony of, I don't even know how to put it. It's like there's nothing there. And like looking over a cliff's edge, it is so cool. But the colors, I mean, you can see actual colors in the stars. And it's, they're like, it's like they're right there. You could reach out and touch them. It's so amazing.
That's so awesome, and I would love to know what the technology is that they have to be doing things like that. Like, for instance, them being able to drop and stop so fast that you weren't turned into mush inside of the UFO.
Yeah, it shocked me so. I mean, it did it 1 second
Did
from
you feel it in your stomach?
nope,
Wow.
nope. And I've been in fast elevators, and I've been in planes that had turbulence, which dropped like 100 feet. I don't know if it's ever happened to you. That's
Yes. No, no, thank you.
no, I didn't feel any of that. I did feel it rock slightly, which was really cool. I don't know if that was just my visuals of seeing the craft do that, but no, I didn't feel any acceleration or deceleration whatsoever. And no one I've ever talked to has ever reported that.
Mhm.
Like one girl, she walks in and they take her to the window and she's shocked because there's the earth and it's now like that big. She's like, oh my God, that fast. They took her out of the planet's atmosphere in less than a minute. Crazy.
Incredible. Absolutely incredible. Blows my mind. Oh, I'm jealous, to be quite honest with you. Um, uh, Somebody had asked earlier, I think it might have been Scott. He asked if you thought you had an implant.
uh, I don't have evidence direct of it, but I think almost without exception, contact do. At
Mhm.
some point, I realized, you know what? I think I'm going to have to start calling myself a contactee. So it wouldn't surprise me one bit. Now, I'm not a huge fan of channelers, but I did my research into channel because some people report this, and I had a channeler say, "Oh yeah, you have." She was actually giving a reading to somebody. And said, "You have 5 implants in your body." Stupid me blurts out, "That's a lot." Channeler turns to me and says, "You have more," which of course made me laugh. Like what? I haven't had a full body MRI or anything, so and I've never broken a bone. Knock on wood. So
Which is one of the signs they talk about. A lot of the people don't have health issues or breaking bones and things.
could be. Yeah, I've been very fortunate for the most part.
Yeah, you and I are polar opposites. College football, well, I played that, but oh my god, I can't fathom with the unbelievably rambunctious child I was, thinking Spider-Man jumping down a flight of stairs at an inner tube at the base. I land inside of the middle of the inner tube and break my ankle. Many other crazy things. I broke a lot of bones. Um, but with the comment that they made to you, does it make you maybe want to get an MRI or something one day and see what's in you? Because that comment of you have more definitely should have hit home with you.
I'm curious. Certainly, I'm absolutely curious. People have asked me, "Well, why don't you go under hypnosis?" I trust hypnosis done correctly. I think it's
Mhm.
proven to be very accurate in retrieving people's memories. But it's also been proven to be very inaccurate done incorrectly. I mean, so it's very controversial. I
Right.
mean, I've interviewed a lot of people, and I generally don't recommend hypnosis because you can remember this through meditation and dream work, and going to support groups and you hear someone and you're like, oh, I remember that. That happened to me. There's ways to bring back memory, and I've been able to do that. So I'd be curious, yeah, to go to a doctor, but I'm not sure I'm going to plan a visit and say, stick me in the MRI. Did you heard about the MRI accident recently?
No.
Yeah, some guy walked into the MRI room that they had it on, and it sucked him in, and he was lost his life.
Whoa! Wait, what?
Yeah,
How did it suck him in?
I don't know. I guess he had
A
jewelry.
lot of artificial joints.
I don't know.
Oh my God, that's horrible. I'd never heard that. Jeez,
I
I have
hadn't either, but I
an
did have an
artificial
MRI
knee.
once, and I felt the electromagnetic fields. So
Yeah, for
I did have
sure.
an
I do
MRI
too.
once for my wrist, but no, they didn't. If they found anything, they didn't tell me, which
Right.
wouldn't surprise me because I already told you about that. They're
Exactly.
not
Yeah,
forthcoming. Dolly
that's
Suffering
really
did go to the doctor and was like, "What's that in your hand?" She showed me. They were very curious, and she's like, she kind of played stupid. It's like, I don't know,
mhm.
what do you think it is? Uh,
I
so
have a lot of questions for her, boy.
mm, yeah,
Yeah, so wow, I'm blown away by all of this. Was that the last experience that you had with them?
yeah,
So
yeah.
you said you had a total of 3?
In terms of encounters,
Yes.
I've remembered some others, and it's hard for me to point to exactly when it happened because that missing time incident as a young man, the what I've recalled was I remember being quite young. I had hair back then. I missed those days. But yeah, we were all being shown free energy devices, and they took us and they showed us a star field. But in another one, I was taken on board, and they said, "Would you like to explore?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And they took me to the other room, and they turned the wall transparent, and we were underwater. I couldn't believe it. They turned the corner of this room transparent. I'm like, "Oh my god, that's ocean down there." And like, can I see the engine room or something along those lines? This was a 8 foot tall guy. If he was, he was 8 feet tall. I kept looking up at his face and it would blur out.
Oh, wow.
And I've heard that from other people. So that was interesting to experience myself. I saw him twice. And the first time I'm like, I know if I meet you again, he says, you'll have to look up at me. I'm like, what kind of answer is that? I think he was a tall white. He was very thin. But I never did see his face. And he took me to the other side of the room, and I saw something that I really can't describe because I don't know how, I'm a writer. I should be able to find the words for this. It was a device that had slats on it. It was the best way, and metallic and very simple looking. And that's really the best way I can describe it. Let me see, horizontal slats in a row. Each
Like
of
a like a window blind?
kind of
Mhm.
like an ocean furnace, on the wall with the little, yeah,
Oh,
kind of
yeah,
um,
yes. I know what you mean.
uh, like an air conditioner vent,
Mhm.
maybe. I don't know. It was very simple. That was one. Another, they put me in there. There was 5 or 10 people on board, 10 closer, and each person got to sit in the front of the craft on the seat and basically pilot it. They were actually controlling it, but you got to sit in the front of the craft, and everyone's going. I'm like, I'll wait to the end. I don't mind. If I get to go, this is great.
Mhm.
And they sat me in the front. And if you ever driven a Volkswagen microbus, it kind of hangs right over the road when you're
Yeah.
driving. Uh,
Yes.
it's funny. I took a girlfriend there, and she was clinging to the seat. I'm like, what's wrong? She's
I
like,
don't
we're hanging
blame
over
her.
the road. And it was like you were right in front and racing down this river under the bridges. Landscape was going by so fast you couldn't track it. It was so cool. We must have traveled 100 miles in a split second. we each got maybe a minute in the seat, and then we had to go down this energy ribbon, as Dolly calls it. They beam you down. It's kind of Star Trekky. And this one guy's standing there. He's like, I don't want to go. And I'm like, listen, I've done this before. It's not hard. All you do is jump in. You'll be fine. It's like, I don't want to go. I'm like, how about if I go with you? And it's like, okay, this is what I remember, right? This is through kind of the dream state, because you can use dreams to recall this. And I go down with them, and it's very scrunched together. He goes, and I go back up, and then they take me home, and that's all I remember. That was one. There's been a couple of others.
That's absolutely incredible.
Yeah, I'm going to write a book one day on just my experiences.
Do you think that when you saw you guys were underwater, that might have been part of the reason why you've been so specifically attracted to the subject of USOs?
Well, that came after. So
Okay.
because I got into USOs immediately. I started getting cases. I'm like, well, this is interesting. One of my early books, UFOs over California, had a chapter on that. And I ended up writing an article for Fate magazine, which went viral. And that led me to getting onto the History Channel for deep sea UFOs, which they loved. It got record ratings. So they called me back for the next one. I got into UFO Hunters because of that. And that just broadened reports like crazy. And I became the go-to guy for USOs.
I've learned of you from those shows.
So yeah, that was cool. So that's how that kind of rolled out. So it was kind of a treat to. That's what I love so much, is because people describe, oh, the walls were rounded, and when they say that, I'm thinking like an egg. Oh, you're standing inside an egg. That's not what it was like at all. The floor was absolutely flat, and it just curved up. Let me see, slightly like that. So very quick curve and it curved into the ceiling. I'm like, oh, okay, now I see what people are describing, because you get a certain picture in your head when people are talking about this.
Right.
I'm like, oh, well, this is a little different from what I expected. But yeah, I think they did that because of my research.
I was going to ask you that. Yeah.
It was very cool, though. I was very polite. I kept my hands behind my back. I didn't touch anything without permission. I felt like I was in a museum almost. Like, these guys are, I'm going to be very cautious here, because these were tall whites, and they're a little different from the grays.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I do remember one where there was human-looking beings, and I'm a jokey guy, right? I love a sense of humor, and I was kind of being jokey and trying to be funny, and they did not think it was funny at all.
Oh, really?
No, they're just kind of
That's
looking at me
funny.
like, "What is wrong with this human?"
That's really funny. I would have found it funny. I would have cracked jokes myself.
I calmed down. I'm like, "Okay, fine." And they led me to another, and they gave me some counseling session, which I can't fully remember, but I think they were asking me, like, what do you want to do? Because I have the sense that I agreed to do this research and help get the word out about this subject.
Mm-hmm.
I think they contact a lot of people who are doing, who are musicians, and trying to shine a light on the world,
Mm-hmm.
or helping animals. I can't tell you, there's not a single contactee who I've asked, I should say, who doesn't have amazing animal stories. Ask Dolly that when you talk to her. She's got a million of them. But man, oh man, I've got some myself. The connection to the environment and the nature and the animal kingdom is a big part of being a contactee.
I'm a huge animal person. In fact, since to my family was jokes about it, that I'm an animal whisperer, because since I was a kid, they've just been attracted to me. They just, like, I'm able to get animals that most people are like, oh yeah, he won't let you pet him, and they come to me. So
Yep.
I maybe I'm sorry, that's what you're talking about. Yeah, maybe I was taken. I don't remember which. And Jack Spring wants you to just talk real quick about. He's been waiting about Jack Walton, but somebody said about what I just mentioned. Where did that go? Um, oh man, they had said it just goes so fast.
Yeah, I'm trying to keep track of chat, but I can't. USO stands for Unidentified Submersible Object. There's one.
Um, oh, I missed. I can't find what they had said. It was basically about when they take. Oh, I remember now. They said, "Why do some people remember their events of being taken, and other people do
Or don't. Yeah.
or don't?" I'm
It,
sorry.
it's controversial. This is, I'm actually doing research into this right now because I'm curious about that too. I initially
Okay.
blamed the ETs for this. I'm like, they're wiping people's memories. They're not wiping people's memories because they do remember. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
there's a cue. It can be days, hours, weeks, even years afterwards. They'll see the term UFO, and I'm like, there are cases where the ETs say you're not going to remember this for a while, or you'll remember this when it's time,
Mm-hmm.
or you're going to think of this as a dream. Then there's a case where the boys brought on board and they're like, wow, you're going to remember this. It's not us doing it. Very few people can remember. We're not doing it. It's you guys. We're very proud of you for being able to remember. And I've got a few cases like this. I have to
Mm-hmm.
tell you about that when we dove deep into a chapter about all of this. It is ultimately our responsibility to remember. Now, if you look into cases of missing time outside of the UFO with war veterans, people who suffer trauma of any kind, whether it's a car accident or childhood abuse or an assault, their memory can go. They don't remember. They deny. If anything that's outside of your world view can be particularly hard to process, or something that's a little bit assaulting to your senses in a way, or scary.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so we are incredibly good at denial. Uh, so if a person is in a straight up panic and they're on board, they don't want to remember, the ETs will facilitate that. They're like, this person is having a hard time. This is not our goal. Let's facilitate their desire to not remember. So I think to some extent it's a two-way street, but it's ultimately our own responsibility. You know how difficult it is to remember dreams?
Oh yeah.
It's like that because people are brought up this energetic, almost interdimensional device to bring them on board, and that can cause some disorientation. So I think that's part of the reason as well. I think there's a lot going on here, but in the beginning I was blaming the ETs, and now I'm more no, kind of on the other side. It's really ultimately our responsibility because even those who have had missing time, this is what I always tell you. They're like, I'm thinking of going under hypnosis. I'm like, before you do that, write down everything that you remember, really in detail. Not only what you saw, but what was going on emotionally and mentally. And put it away and go back to it a week later. And do that for a couple of months. And you'd be surprised how much you can fill out. And then after that, do meditation. This works. Betty and Barney Hill is a good example. Both were having dreams. Betty's wrote down her dream. Later, when under hypnosis, her dream recall was just as extensive and just as accurate as her hypnotic recall. So do that, meditation and dream work. And like I said, a support group. And this, I kind of recommend and I kind of don't because I don't want you to put your own memory. But if you're in a support group and someone will say, gosh, I remember, waking up and my head was at the foot of my bed and my feet were at my pillow. People have told me, oh my God, I remember that happening to me. Had completely forgot about it and blocked it. So you can go to a support group and start to pull back details. Do all of this first, and that will assist you in remembering. Hypnosis is a technique that does work. We talked about that. I've been reluctant to use it because I've been able to recall myself. But was that the question?
Yeah. Yes, it was. Yeah. Why do some and
Yeah.
some don't? I have a question for you, and maybe Dolly can come in and maybe give a little idea. Talking about dreams specifically, um, somebody having a dream and then finding out that somebody, say a friend of theirs, had the same exact dream, and you both were in it. Um, what,
Had that, yeah.
yeah, what is going on there in your opinion?
Well, dreams are not what people think they are, for one thing. There's levels of dreaming, and some are very much psychological, and you're processing the information that you have throughout the day. But really, what you're doing is you're astral projecting each and every night.
That's what I wondered.
And you absolutely are, and I got really good at it. This coincided with my interest in UFO study of and experiences, which is absolutely matches up to the people I've interviewed. So basically, you're going out of body and traveling on the astral planes and doing all kinds of stuff, and it's very hard to remember. So the trick
Mhm.
to astral projection is really learning how to remember what's going on at night. And you go and you visit your family members, and you're out there in a forest and you're walking together, and like, gosh, you both come back with this dream that you're out there in a forest and you saw a deer or whatever it can be. Uh, so, and another person can actually kind of enter into a person's dream, because a dream can be essentially a hallucination as well. You're
Mhm.
creating the environment around you.
Right.
So there's a lot going on here. I would definitely recommend astral projection. I have a little guide. I put a 2-page guide together. Anyone who wants it, email me, prestonufo@gmail.com. Easy to remember. My name, the word UFO. It's 2 pages. It has all the steps on how to do it. I've trained people how to do this. I've taught classes. I wrote a book on it. Anyone can do this. I want to throw this in there, Matt, because I forgot. I also have a little 20 question guide to determine if you're a contactee. I'll send it to you if you want.
Please do,
It's,
please.
it's
And what we just talked about a second ago.
yeah, it's 20 questions like, have you had missing time? Have you had a close-up sighting? You know, little questions that help determine if you're a contactee. Or if you score high, the higher you score, the more likely you are to be a contactee.
Okay. I would
And
love to.
just
Please.
yeah, just talking with you, I have questions, Matt. Because I'm wondering, because people don't always remember. It may take a long time to come to the awareness that you're having contact.
Okay. I'd
I'll
love
send,
to talk with you.
yeah, I'll send that to you and to anyone who wants it. And real quick, Travis Walton, I totally believe his case. I've met Travis. He's an amazing guy. He's been viciously attacked. They've tried to debunk him over and over again, never successfully. Jennifer Stein, is that her name? Put out an excellent documentary, which I think is called Travis. Watch it. Uh,
I've seen it. It is excellent.
and, it's one of the best authenticated cases out there. It's got physical evidence. He's missing for 5 days. I 100% believe him. He passed a lie detector test multiple times. So have most of the other witnesses. One guy didn't. He was so upset. They would not go back to find him. And when they came down and said Travis is missing, only 2 or 3 of the guys had the courage. Like the other guys are kidding. I'm not going back there. You couldn't
Right.
pay me to go back there.
And they were accused of murder.
Right. Absolutely. Thank God Travis showed up. So,
Jack, if Jack is still here, if it was that what you wanted for Preston about the base of it, or do you have a specific question, Jack? Dolly has been a wealth of information tonight as well, Preston. Not everyone has the volume up on their abilities, though.
yeah, and that's one of the ET missions, is to wake people up, because we do have abilities of levitation, healing, astral projection, cognition, clairvoyance. I mean, there's a list of all these what we call superhuman abilities or supernatural paranormal. They're not. They're natural human abilities. Telepathy. We all have this ability to do this.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy to develop your psychic abilities through little psychic games or pure meditation. Walking in nature. There's all kinds of things we can do. Having a good diet, eat bad processed foods, don't drink fluoridated water. Uh, you know, the music you listen to can have an effect. Uh,
For
all
sure.
you know, there's all kinds of things you can do, but meditation is ultimately the key, and it's the one thing really that all spiritual disciplines and religions do agree upon. Is meditation, prayer, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Very effective. And I can't recommend enough. Learn astral projection. It'll change your life. Oh
I
my
would
God.
love to.
It's not hard to do. Took me 2 months, about less. I read Robert Monroe's book. He's the go-to guy on this. And man, oh man, it worked. I couldn't believe it. He had exercises, which I refined to make it a little bit easier, because his were like, I'm not sure I understand what he's saying here.
Mm-hmm.
So I made it really easy for people to do. And I guarantee it almost. I can't obviously guarantee it, but if you do these exercises, I would be dead shocked if you didn't start remembering more of your dreams and becoming more lucid. And it's like learning how to ride a bike or a new computer program or a video game or how to play guitar. It took me forever to learn the chords.
I wish I knew how.
I still can't. But or like learning. I took 8 years of French, uh, so I can speak it better than I can understand it. But it takes time and effort. You have to dedicate yourself to it, and you can absolutely do it. And when you have that first experience, oh man, whew, it is wild. You can go to the other side. If you've had a near-death experience, you're primed, you're ready.
Yeah.
You already know what it's like to go out of body.
Yeah, I do. It was. I'll give you just the abridged version of what happened. Some people here have heard it. So, April of 2022, I got. I had numerous surgeries on my right leg. I got Charcot syndrome, which is spelled CHARCO2T. And what it basically is that all of um, the joints in your foot and ankle dislocate, and they have to get
Right.
a specialist to do it. Now, normally orthopedics are always considered specialists, but they have to even go through extra training to be able to do this surgery. The first one failed. They went in and did another one, much more robust and extra things, rods and plates and all that. And I have advanced lupus, so my body was fighting healing the whole time, and it failed. And I unfortunately had to have my right leg below the knee amputated. Well, fast forward a little bit to, I don't know, a week or two more later. And just like anybody that you would have that surgery, you try and move around, you're going to have accidents. And I fell a couple times and right down on it like
Oof.
that. And the sutures started to unravel, moving forward real quick because there's a lot more to how this went down. But my home health care nurse sent pictures to my surgeon, who said, "Oh my God, Matt needs emergency immediately. Something really bad can happen." So I went, and the one ER I went to, I sat there for 5 hours, and I left and had my wife come get me because it was absurd. They were supposed to fast track me to the back like a heart attack patient, and they didn't.
Mm.
And on my way home, the artery in my leg blew, and I bled out in my wife's car with her and my then 14-year-old daughter in the back seat. And it was really they stopped at a gas station, and people inside were calling the ambulance, and a guy working, the ex-combat medic, and he was trying to do a makeshift tourniquet on my leg and help. And I'm bleeding out. I mean, I lost almost 3 pints of blood in the car.
Mm.
A doctor had seen the insanity and stopped, tried to help, and the ambulance finally got there when I was losing consciousness for the fourth time. The first time I lost it, I kind of woke up. The second time I was out, my wife basically punched me to get me to wake up. This is a funny story from it. And I woke up. I'm like, why did you hit me so hard? She said, you're not going out. And the last thing, which was really disturbing, and my family probably they don't like to hear it, but I looked at them and I knew I felt my life slipping away, and I looked at them and I said, "I'm sorry," and I hear my daughter screaming, "Daddy, no!" My wife yelling my name, "Matt, Matt, don't." Next thing you know, I see black, and I then am awake, and I am in a huge field, thousands, literally thousands of people around me. Some were facing me and looking at me, and some were just doing their thing, not even being bothered by me, but every single person was out of focus. Like, they were blurry. I couldn't see who they were or what. So I got a extremely strong feeling over my right shoulder, and I looked and I turned, and lo and behold, it was my mom and dad who are no longer here. I
Oh,
had lost my father to pancreatic cancer. My mom died from complications of, number one, a broken heart. That can really happen, losing my dad. And number two, also had um, she had advanced lupus, which I inherited. um, Thank you, BJ. And I immediately started bawling. I ran and kissing and hugging, and how is this possible? And I had my leg. So me running to them, I had my leg. It was my
wow.
real leg, and I was not sick or any. I felt great, and my dad never spoke. He just smiled and he hugged me, and he's a big guy like me. We're both about 6'4", and he never spoke, but I kept crying, and how is this possible? And my mom, little Lebanese woman, she's looking up at me, and the way she used to, and I'm bawling, and they were emotional as well, crying, and we missed. My mom saying, "We miss you too, baby," and she said a few other things that I'm going to keep private, and then she then says to me what a lot of people in these situations get from their loved ones. And she said straight on, "Honey, it's so good to see you. We miss you too, but it's not your time. You need to
Yeah,
go."
I knew
And
that was coming. Yep.
I got angry, and I said, "Bullshit, mom. I'm not going anywhere. I want to stay here." I had this immense feeling of love and warmth, and I wanted to stay there. Now, I don't believe I was in heaven. I think I was somewhere in between, wherever, or whatever heaven is, or where, but I wasn't there. I don't think I was. I just think I was like at an in between point somewhere. And she smiled at me and said, "I love you." And she took her right hand and touched me on my left cheek. I saw a flash, like a bright, like um, somebody took our picture, but super bright. And I woke up on the operating table at the hospital, and the surgeon that saved my life was over me saying, "We're going to do everything we can to save you." And she had just told my wife, "Say goodbye to him. He's probably not going to make it." I was crying. She looked at me and touched me on the head, and she was being real sweet. "Well, honey, we're going to do everything we can." She thought I was crying because of me being so sick, and I was horribly sick. I was freezing. They said I was blue. I lost so much blood, but I was crying because I saw my mom and dad. I was blown away, and that really happened. And of course, they saved my life, and that
Amazing.
changed my life. And I have two brothers and two sisters, and told them what happened, and everybody, they believe. I was worried no one would believe me, and they did. And I tell everybody, you hear these stories of physicians and stuff, saying, "Oh, it's just a dump of chemicals or dopamine or whatever." I didn't see, go to the light. It wasn't one of those situations. It was real. It was 100% real, and it happened, and it was amazing. And it's opened me up to a lot of other stuff, but I've had more little thises and that's happening. I've had stuff going on my whole life, kind of paranormally connected and weird stuff here and there. I had that huge event that happened when I was 14 with the dog man and my friends. But after then, I definitely have had some weird stuff that's been happening more and more. I'll talk to you about it off camera. But that was really wild.
Yeah, I love the accounts of near-death experiences. I find them very encouraging and just absolutely heartwarming. And yeah, I've had that experience too, through astral projection, reunions with both parents, two brothers, a nephew, a best friend, pets, family friend.
I hope, I'm glad you said pets, because oh my God, I need to see my pets again someday.
Yeah, I'm going to send you this little guide, and if yeah, you would, I'm sure, be able to do this. It just takes a little time, and a
Okay.
little, but it's very cool. I do want to answer a quick question from Louise,
Yes.
which I saw there was,
Thank
I,
you, BJ.
which said, I once said if a person sees a UFO, it means they're a contactee, or something along those lines is her question. And yeah, uh, but with some qualifications, because I think people are in a crowd with people and a UFO flies by. That doesn't necessarily mean you're a contactee. It definitely means that ETs are know or looking at them.
Hmm.
They show themselves to people. It's intentional. I'm absolutely convinced of this. But if you have a close-up sighting, and by close-up I mean within a couple of 100 feet, even 1,000. But if you have a UFO show itself to you and it's in your backyard, or if it's 500 feet away, that is a huge red flag that they know about you. They're interested in you. They want to show themselves to you on purpose.
Hmm.
Often a precursor to a much bigger event. So to some level, yeah. But the term contactee is thrown around. Uh, it's my opinion that contact comes in many different forms. And some people will just have a simple sighting, which absolutely changes their life forever. And that's all they really get. Some have direct telepathic contact and might not
Hmm.
even see a UFO. There are many people I've interviewed who've seen ETs come into the bedroom. They never saw a UFO, or they will only see it from the inside. They have never seen a UFO, but they're being taken on board. So, I mean, there's all different levels of contact. And speaking about dreams, people can remember a dream of being on board a UFO, and that was a real event that happened that night. Or they can have a dream that they were on board, and that was a memory of an event that happened 2 years ago, as an example.
Wow.
Or they, can even contact ETs through, astral projection. So, or you can just be interested in the subject and have a normal dream that's just a dream. But dreams are a lot more than people give them credit for.
I 100% agree. Also heard some people mention they believe dreams give you a window into other selves and other parallel lives, in multiverse, whatever you want to call it.
I'm not sure I would put it that way. I've studied dreams intensely. I wrote down every dream I've ever had when when I started having some weird experiences with my mom coming to me in my dreams. And I interviewed everyone in my family and everyone. I'm like, tell me every dream you've ever had. And I bought every book on dreams. I mean, I know dreams, and popular dream theory is wrong in a lot of ways
Hmm.
in psychology. Uh, but you can absolutely visit probabilities and learn things about yourself. I'm not a believer in the alternate probable universes.
Okay.
I don't subscribe to that, I should say. But I think that you can absolutely learn about your past lives and incarnation. through the dream state, or even better, astral projection, and visit the other side, of course, your deceased loved ones, but go to healing temples and places of learning and much higher realms like the Akashic Library, which is amazing if you can do that. Oh my God. Or meet like
Where is that?
trick question. It's right here next to us. Really, it's just we have. There's different. Gosh, how would I put this? Going out of body is a bit of a misnomer because the fact is, the human body has all of this as part of the human organism. It feels like we're going into a different body, the astral body, the mental body, the causal body. They've got it all mapped out in Eastern religion, and I'm not so sure that it's entirely accurate, because what you're doing is you're just moving your awareness, you're increasing your awareness to a degree that you have greater perception. And the other dimensions are all wrapped up together. So people are seeing ghosts living on the astral planes because they're right there.
Mm-hmm.
None of this is all far away from you. It's not up or down or anything. It's all intertwined. This is what I've learned from reading and personal experience and interviewing people. But this is all something we can do. And in fact, that is our true home. Where you were describing, I know that place. It's this is where so many people describe it a near-death experience. It's beautiful. The grass is so green.
Yes.
Oh my God. You just can't even tell people. They don't get it. It's like super high definition.
Mm-hmm.
And it's glowing with light and the love that surrounds you. I call it the garden realm. I don't know. I'm not really religious, so I think people would probably call it the heavenly realms. That's fine, whatever. But you can go realms higher than that, or you would perceive it as higher, and that would be the Akashic, plane or Akashic library. And it's super bright and super high energy. And you can do all of this. Anyone can do this. This is our God-given right. This is who we are. And that's our true home. We're projecting down here into the third dimension. That's the projection. We're coming down into a much lower dimension away from our true home. That's where we live. That's who we truly are.
Mm-hmm.
In quote, the higher realms, for lack of a better word.
Are I'm sure you've heard the some people say that we are being held here as prisoners. Do you agree with that?
No. And I
Okay.
hate that. And I think it's false, fear-based disinformation.
I'm glad you said that.
And people tell me this. I'm like, you need to learn astral projection. You will learn for yourself. Don't believe me, please. It's your due diligence to find out these things for yourself. No, I think we choose to come here to learn lessons, to learn love and individuality, and lessons that we can't learn on higher planes. Because you're not going to feel pain on the higher plane,
Mm-hmm.
loss, or what feels like separation, because we're not really separated. I don't know that we're even supposed to be born here without any memories of past lives.
Right.
Because people are like, oh, we're coming down as a blank slate to learn all this stuff. I'm like, oh, maybe not. I'm not that advanced in knowledge, but I do feel absolutely, Dolly, no, not prisoners.
Good.
She agrees. We have absolute autonomy, and absolutely you can learn this for yourself and talk to enlightened masters who will teach you all kinds of stuff and learn. Yeah, no, this is not a prison planet by any means. According to Buddhism, there's something called the wheel of samsara, the wheel of karma, and we get caught up in reincarnations because we've forgotten who we truly are. Maybe there's some element of truth to that, because people do get mired in delusion, no doubt about it. But we need to just rise above all these negative emotions of fear, greed, lust, anger, and the 7 deadly sins, so to speak. There's some truth to that, because if you can conquer yourself, you will have a much easier time of doing astral projection and getting out there and enjoying that freedom. absolutely can do this. And it's so cool. It is so worth it.
That's incredible. I'm so glad that you're telling me these hit these parts. Um, what what would you say about, you hear everybody, I want to change up into the water part, the ocean, and this, obviously everyone always says, we know more about what's going on in space than our own planet in the water. A lot of, and Dolly, you can answer in this too, a lot of rumors that there are undersea bases dotted all around planet Earth, and it's obvious. A lot of people have seen a lot of, and the word USO wouldn't have come from anywhere. But like, what's your thoughts about uh, how much is going on under our own oceans, and do you believe in a Middle Earth?
Hollow Earth, no. No, I sure don't.
Hollow Earth.
Or
Okay.
Middle Earth or anything like that. I do think that there are lots of caverns and caves. I love caves. It's very interesting. There's our crust is riddled with caverns and stuff. So absolutely yes. And our oceans have had a lot of UFO slash USO activity,
Mhm.
unidentified submersible objects, objects coming in and out of the water, inland in rivers and lakes. Absolutely, there's been a lot of activity. And when I first came into this field, I was looking into cases of possible undersea bases, and I wondered about it because there was so much USO activity, particularly off the Southern California coast. And I was getting some reports of people who were like, well, I wasn't taken into what I thought was a craft. This was a vast area. So I wondered about it. Dolly says, no, there's no bases. There are no bases. They don't need bases. I'm thinking what some people are seeing are they're being taken into craft that are underwater. You might look outside and see ocean and make the assumption like, oh, well, I was in an undersea base. Well, kind of, if you want to look at it that way, it would be inaccurate, but you were in a structure that was underwater. But no, I don't think that they necessarily, maybe in the far past,
Mhm.
but from what I can tell from contactees, I haven't gotten really good reporting on this. I did write a book about USOs where I explored that possibility and tried to build an argument like there could be a base in the Santa Catalina Channel, but I never was able to, absolutely unequivocally, yes, there is. And Dolly very firmly tells me no. Well,
Hmm.
I have to believe her because she's, really my go-to gal with all of this, proven her story to me. And for Pete's sake, she took me on board. I mean, I cannot discount what she has
Right.
to say.
Well,
So
you would.
no, I'm based on the moon, not active.
Thank you. That's what I was just gonna say.
Yeah, the stuff up there, no doubt. I don't know that it's active, but I've gotten multiple reports of that from contactees and whistleblowers. Uh, Preston, tell them why they go into the water. Okay, yeah, because this is a big question. Why are there USOs?
Mhm.
I was on. Well, they're hiding down there. That they're not detected. It's a great place for them to go. This was kind of my theory. And Dolly's like, well, no, that's not exactly true. They can go down there and not be detected, and that is convenient. But the real reason they're going down there is because when they come down into Earth's atmosphere, they become superheated, and at some point they have to cool down.
Mhm.
And if you start examining these USO cases in detail, you will see case after case where they come down into the water and clouds of steam rise up. So ultimately, that's what they're doing because the skins of these craft get super hot, and they've got stuff to do. They've got animals to pick up going extinct. They've got plants to pick up that they don't want to go extinct either. Some people call them the gardeners. There's a reason for that. The
Mhm.
watchers. And so, people have stupidly run up to a landed UFO and burned the heck out of themselves.
Oh man. Oh geez.
Don't do that.
The one gentleman, the famous from the Canada.
Yep, Stephanie
Um,
McCallick, I never Michalek.
The really old one where the guy took the bus to do mineral.
Yep, that's the one.
Yeah,
Falcon
he
Lake.
got the burns on his chest, and yeah, that's exactly what happened to him.
Yep, there's a
Wow.
number of cases like that. So probably not a good idea to run up to a landed UFO. And people, when it one landed at Melbourne
Yeah,
Westall High School,
the kids.
yeah,
Yeah,
they could feel the heat coming off of this thing. There's a lot of cases of that where people feel the heat radiating off of a craft.
that's makes a ton of sense. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to put that up. Um, sorry there, Dolly. Um, going back to because I'm enthralled with this subject is the moon. So it's a moon base. It is hollow, and that's no.
No, not hollow. It's a
Okay.
natural satellite. There's a lot of misinformation about the moon.
About how it's size and it shouldn't be there and all of that
Yeah.
stuff.
Um,
Why doesn't it rotate then?
it does. It's just tidal locked. It does
Title,
rotate,
that's right. Okay.
um, which is, I think, Dolly can tell you some interesting things that the ETs have told her. Because I think there's some ancient writings where the moon is never mentioned, and
There are bases there though, correct?
a base or
Okay.
some alien structures. I did talk to a guy who was part of the Apollo missions, and he was a petty photographer. They bumped him up to this top secret clearance and had him photographing the astronauts in quarantine. And he was developing their film. He said there's a rooms of film, and he developed 1% of it and saw stuff, structures. He says I couldn't tell you how big it was because there was no reference point, but domes and clearly artificial structures of some kind.
Yeah, I've seen pictures of them as well.
Yeah, and if the more I looked into it, when he told me that, because I had not done any research into quote lunar anomalies, 100% there's stuff going on up there. I'm
Yeah.
absolutely convinced. And oh, this would be a good area of research because there's been quite a few contactees who've been taken there, Dolly among them, and shown this. I've had this from a few people, and I know of several accounts in the literature. Uh, yeah, that's a good idea. I might do a deeper dive on that.
I would love to see it. There's been some very, very interesting videos of people with those. I forget what the telescopes are called, but they're like one of the most powerful telescopes that people in public can get their hands on, and they go right up to the surface of the moon,
Yep.
and they showed these glass domes and other thing tracks in the thing in the surface substrate, and then numerous times they've had video of with these telescopes of craft going across the surface of the moon.
Yeah.
It
If you look at
blows
the
my
Apollo
mind.
missions, there's some whistleblowers within NASA who've made it very clear that ETs were very well aware of the moon missions and showed
Well,
themselves.
the famous, and I don't, and I apologize if I ever seem like I'm cutting you off,
Oh
Preston.
no,
I'm not
no, I
trying
love
to.
it.
But we're having a great conversation. Thank you for staying so late. The ham radio guy that actually got to listen to them on the secured channel when they were up there talking about the aliens, and they're staring at us from across the crater, and that I heard that conversation and the proof that they showed from a recording that that ham operator had made. So
Yep.
yeah, really, really interesting. Is it all on the dark side of the moon, the majority of it?
I believe so. Yeah, the far side of the moon, the dark side. Yeah,
Hmm.
um, I that's something I do want to look more into. It's funny this subject. You get into UFOs, and then you're researching ghosts, and then it's Bigfoot, and then it's lunar anomalies, and then it's Dogman, and then I mean it just goes on and on. I have never really dove deep into all the lunar anomalies, but I followed. I've got some books on it. Leonard, what was it? Somebody Else is on the Moon by George Leonard and Glenn Steckling. We Found Alien Bases on the Moon, and there's a few others.
Sorry, I'm looking at some of these, and BJ, I will absolutely ask Preston to come back over and over. Isn't there a mountain that there was someone projecting? I forgot, but where we're humanoids. I don't really understand.
There's something called the Shard, this big tower.
Mount Shasta is supposed to have crazy stuff going on in there.
I have looked into that. I wrote a book, Supernatural California, and there's some really interesting reports.
I did a video on it as well. I agree with you.
Yeah, I was surprised to find how many reports of stuff, UFOs and Bigfoot and other weird stuff going on there.
Your thought on Bigfoot. A lot of correlation has been made over the years about people having Bigfoot experiences and not long after seeing UFOs or vice versa. Do you think that there's any connection between the two?
I do. I just found another. I know of about 50 or 100 cases. Stan Gordon's a researcher who's really championed that. I had a case myself very early on with a radiologist, a good witness, who had a UFO landing and then a Bigfoot encounter the next night.
Mm-hmm.
Another lady was a contactee who started having Bigfoot encounters. But there are cases where people see a Bigfoot and a UFO rises up out of the field. Quite a few.
Right.
I just found another one. God, where was it? Louisiana, thereabouts, Mississippi, I forget. But that general area. At any rate, I'm like, gosh, is Bigfoot and ET? What is going on here? Because some people are looking into Bigfoot accounts, and I studied it. I became a Bigfoot researcher. I had my own Bigfoot encounter.
Oh,
twice.
did you?
I did. Happened? But well, I'll tell you. But let me just say, I think what we're looking at here in terms of the connection, because if you look into Bigfoot, it's absolutely authenticated. It's all over the United States. It's all across the world. It goes back hundreds of years.
Patterson-Gimlin film proves it.
Yeah, I mean, it's been here forever. There's great footage out there. And even if you don't believe the Patterson-Gimlin footage, and I do actually.
I do too.
There's lots of good footage out there. But at any rate, I think that it is real. There is evidence for it. And what we're looking at is a sentient being, essentially intelligent as we would think of it, perhaps psychically advanced as well, because many of the cases do involve what appear to be telepathic communication, or even weird paranormal stuff where it like disappears or stuff.
Cloaks.
Right. And so I think some of these Bigfoot are what we would call contactees, essentially, and are being contacted by ET, which would make perfect sense. So I think that's what's going on here. And yeah, I got drawn into Bigfoot research, and I started interviewing people personally, and went up to Acton where this lady was having Bigfoot encounters. She's freaking out. She's like, listen, it's howling around the house at night. It's screaming like a woman being murdered. The horses are going crazy. There's footprints on my lawn. Or actually, it was just dirt. It wasn't really much of a lawn. But it snapped a tree trunk outside her house, where her son said, the monkey man was in the tree. And her roommate saw it. So here's 3 people seeing it. So I go up there, and I look at the footprints. I couldn't tell. I did see the tree trunk. It was, that big. It snapped right off. So that was kind of cool. She said once they heard a clunking on the roof, and there was this giant boulder up there. It took 2 guys to pull off this boulder.
Oh my God.
And if you read about Bigfoot, they're all about rock throwing and this sort of thing.
Oh yeah. So
it looks like a good case, right? She's like, I know where it lives. I think it's trying to kidnap me. I'm in telepathic contact with it. It likes me. I'm telling her,
Oh,
don't worry, there's no such thing. They've never kidnapped anybody. I was
oh,
wrong,
yes, they
by
have.
the way. Yes, they have. I had to call her back. I'm like, 'cause I'm like, well, let me stay inside. Not that I think it's a huge danger, but there's a good dozen cases that are pretty well authenticated.
Hmm.
So she's like, I know where it lives. I'm like, you do? She's like, well, I'm pretty sure. She lived on the edge of the LA National Forest, which, yeah, it's outside of LA, but this is a huge forest of, gosh, what is it? I think it's 50 million acres or something like that. It's big. And I looked it up. There's a history of Bigfoot in this area going right up to the edge of LA. It's crazy. Absolutely. Uh, and she lives off the 14 freeway near the 5 freeway, about 2 miles into the forest there, pretty close to a major freeway, right? So I go to her house and she's like, let's go Bigfoot hunting. I'm like, sure. She's like, it comes out at night. And so we went there right at nightfall, at dusk. We went on this dirt road for 3 to 5 miles to a really steep gorge, canyon. And it was thick with growth. I mean, you couldn't climb that thing if you wanted. It was, and she's pointing at it. And it was now dark in there because it was dusk and stars were just beginning to come out. She's like, I think that's where it lives. So I'm getting out of the car and I'm walking up to the front and I'm surveying the area. And she's pulling out the sound equipment because we want to, record this thing.
Call blast. No,
And,
she did. She wasn't call blasting. She was recording.
no, we weren't gonna.
Okay.
We hadn't really thought that out, but uh, we did have equipment. So I'm surveying the area. I'm like, okay, there's a gorge there. It's not that far from us. And then this thing roars. My first thought was, what the heck is that? Is that a plane going overhead? Which it clearly wasn't, because there was no plane. I looked up anyway, because it's echoing all around you, and I don't even know how to describe it, because I've heard lions roar at the zoo right next to me. It scared the living daylights out of me. We had a cougar who lived next to our house in Topanga Canyon, the Mercury Cougar commercials. Well, he owned the cougar for those commercials.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And we had coyotes. I love bears. I've got all the books on bears. I know what bears sound like. There are bears. I'm pretty familiar with these. It wasn't any of those. This thing roared for 20 seconds, maybe 30. Multi-tonal. I could feel it thumping in my chest,
So
resonating.
I was going to ask you if you felt the infrasound.
Yeah, I'm like, oh my God. And I look over at her and she's bone white. Her eyes are this big. And it roars again. And now I can kind of triangulate it because I'm turning my head, right? Like, where is this coming from? It's coming from that gorge. I go running towards it because I want to see this thing. And she loses her mind. She starts screaming in absolute hysteria. What are you doing? Are you crazy? Come back here now. We're leaving. Come back. She was hysterical.
I'm sure she was.
And I can understand that because, she's thinking it's trying to kidnap her.
Right, right.
And I'm running towards it like an idiot, right? I wanted to see it. I didn't, but I heard it. That was the first real encounter, an audible encounter. And later, there was another incident on Mount Baldy where I was hiking with my brother and his friend, way past where everyone else goes, past on this death-defying trail. I'll never do that again. I could have lost my life. This trail was that thin, straight down. People die on that mountain. Like,
oh my God.
You're fine. I'm like, I don't know. I was so mad. That was my birthday. I'm like, I almost died on my birthday.
Oh my God, that would have been horrible.
Yeah, I went back and I told him, look, 3 people died this year. Told you. But we took several hikes up there, and on one of them, we went way past where everyone was going. They wanted to climb to the top of this mountain. I couldn't make it. They were very experienced hikers. They do 100-mile bike rides every weekend. I stopped doing that because I'm like, you guys are crazy. I'm not doing 100 miles every weekend anymore.
I don't know how you could have done that. God bless you.
And so they leave me behind on this trail because it was like 500, 1,000 feet more. I'm like, I can't do it. I'm out of breath. I'm getting dizzy. I'm going to get altitude sickness. It was like 8,000 feet or something, 9,000. And I hear my brother taking rocks and throwing them on the tree, making banging noises. And if you've ever watched the Bigfoot shows, Bigfoot communicates by knocking.
Yeah, I don't buy that.
Well, my
I
brother.
think they do. I'm sorry, but I didn't mean to cut you off again. I just wanted to say real quick, I do believe that they utilize knocking in some form or fashion, but the way that the humans do it, I think know immediately the difference between them and human beings.
Yeah, I don't think it's a good idea necessarily to scream and do knockings to try to call them. Uh,
Thank you. I
that's
agree.
my personal, because it pollutes, it contaminates the whole field. And how do you know there's someone out there not mimicking you? And I don't know, it just seems a little bit off-putting to me. But to each their own, whatever. But I'm like, huh, okay, because I knew that was my brother. He just went around the corner, right? And then way off in the distance, I hear knocking once, and I go and I look down. It's a sheer cliff down to a absolute sheer wilderness. And it's knocking way off in the distance. I'm like, who the heck is down there? Nobody's down there. There's no trails down there. And I'm hearing somebody knocking in response. I'm like, huh. And I went, because they think I'm nuts. I'm not telling them. They already think I'm crazy. So I go to the ranger station and I'm like, do you have reports of Bigfoot around here? Like, oh yeah, we do. And I looked it up.
Oh, interesting. They told you because most of them don't talk about it.
Yeah, and I found 3 or 4 recorded reports on Mount Baldy. So yeah, that's somewhat, what would you call it? Ambiguous. That's the word I'm looking for. Somewhat
Hmm.
ambiguous. But I'm like, huh, I heard that. I don't know. I don't know what's causing that. I don't think it's a person.
Right.
Take it or leave it. But yeah, Bigfoot's real, 100%.
Oh, I agree. Yeah,
Dogman
and
too. Yeah, you had a dogman counter. That's crazy.
it
Wow.
was life altering.
I can imagine.
Yeah, I think about it. There isn't a day that goes by that I don't think about it. Sometimes I have nightmares still. I had an extremely uh, and I talked to a number of people who actually contacted me. Me and my friend BJ Lapierre, who's commenting. She's a sensitive. She has psychic abilities and some other very wild sensitivities to things. And I was contacted by a number of people because I told a experience that I had a little over a year and a half ago. It was basically, and I think, and I've mentioned on this show, I've talked about the astral plane and things like that, and I think this was one of those situations where I stepped out of my body on the astral plane. It was I call it, well, number one, it wasn't a dream, either out of body experience or a dreamscape dream. I've heard people talk about dreamscapes, but you know how first I always say this, you how you have dreams and you're never at your real house, but in your dream it's your house. You just think that. Well, I was at my house. I was in my backyard. I was 100% at home and everything was I thought I was awake when this was going on. I heard a noise out. We have woods behind our house. And I went to the back fence because I heard something loud going on back there. And the next thing you know, I was basically attacked. I got thrown on my back. I felt the wind go out of me, pain. My prosthetic got ripped off of my leg, and when I noticed what was doing it, I saw it was the thing that came and attacked me and my friends when we were 14. It was it. It's the first time I ever saw this thing since that occurred, and it had my prosthetic in its mouth, and it threw it into the woods, and it crawled over me and it had its head as about that close to mine, so
Hmm.
much so that you could feel like, that when someone gets close to you, you feel like an electricity almost. And it had the glowing eyes, the amber eyes, and everyone always, when it happened, did I smell anything? Not that night back then, because we had a huge fire going, but I smelled nothing nasty, just a farm animal. And this is a not a this wasn't a dream. So, you know, this was something else, and it was in color. It crawled over me. It had like saliva dripping out of its mouth, and actually a piece of it went in my mouth, and I like, and it made me almost gag. It was salty and slimy, and then it stopped and it got over my head and put it, like I said, that close, and it didn't speak to me. It used mind speak to me, and it thought to me with its mouth moving, very deep, growly, synthesized kind of sound. And it said, I came for you all those years ago. You speak of me too much. I will see you soon. And then I woke up on my chair and I was sopping wet. My dog had her paws on my legs, and little Hadley, our little puppy, her tail was between her legs, her ears were back, and she was crying. The dog never does this, ever,
Hmm.
ever, ever, ever.
Wow.
And it was wild, and I was shook, and I was shook for a while from that. And I'm telling you right here and now in front of everybody, and a number of them have heard this. It was not a dream. There's no way this was a dream. And it just blew my mind. And I believe, the more I've been thinking about it and looking stuff up, and actually people contacted me I've never met, spoken to in my life, and we discussed it. And um, there were different thoughts about what was going on, but everyone had the same mindset that this thing contacted you on purpose. It was it speaking to you. And I just think that I hit that astral plane and I was somewhere else.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
See why that would be traumatizing. Man,
Yeah,
oh,
it freaked me out for a while.
I can imagine, especially with the way it's speaking to you.
Hmm.
I'll
and
be
and
back, it said. Oh my God.
It did. It said, "I'll see you soon." Now, I haven't seen it, thank God. But who knows what that thing's, measure of time is. So,
Wow.
I'm going to be going on location to haunted asylums and places with cryptid stuff going on, and I, who knows, maybe that's where I'm going to see this thing again. So I don't really want to run into this thing ever again, for sure. So I'll always be armed, but yeah, that what and I always say the same thing. Everybody, you can decide to believe or not believe me. I will not begrudge anybody if you guys have your own decision making, but that happened 100%. It blew my mind, and I have goosebumps everywhere right now, and it makes me think now. And I hadn't thought of this until you brought it up. People having near death experiences and things like that becoming more frequent. So would I have ever have had that if I didn't have a near death experience? Or was it just because I had that experience with it all those years ago? And as some people had mentioned to me, they said, "You're marked from when that thing, came." I don't know.
I don't know. It sounds like it knows you, though. I mean, that's
Yeah,
it
for
sure
sure.
does.
For sure.
Wow. Mm.
Here we go. We have a question here, and then I'm gonna let you go, Preston. I know it's getting late. Uh,
Me too.
it probably felt it was losing its control over you because you were working through your fear. So it decided it was a time for a visit, even if it was through your dreamscape, EJ. I very possible. Um, does anybody have any um, questions? And yes, BJ, I have been wanting to go visit Hellier, Kentucky. I'm that's one of the places I'm going to be going uh, to go. And like I said, Preston, man, you gotta check this out. It's on Prime Video right now. It's called Hellier, and it's like I don't know how many episodes there are, but it's a whole series about this. Um, oh, I know what I wanted to ask you. My wife always says, "Matt, you're like a dog squirrel." I can think of something real quick. Um, so the last thing I didn't get to mention to you is I'm sure you've heard with Bigfoot experiences when they're seen after or before UFO events. Sometimes they're holding a sphere, like a glowing sphere. What's your quick thoughts on what that situation could be about?
There sure are a lot of accounts of ETs holding this sphere as well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing it's some connected to that in some way. I don't know. I could only speculate. Uh, s- I don't know. ET
Mm-hmm.
tech of some kind. Uh, the orbs phenomena. Orbs are flying around sometimes, and they can be spirits.
Right.
They could be ET probes. Maybe it's something along those lines.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very curious about it. There's still a lot of questions. I personally have black boxes. Number of contactees describe these box devices. I still have some questions about that. So yeah, I couldn't answer that. I'm curious about it though.
Me too. Me too. I agree. Um, so if anybody has any question for Preston before we get going here, because it has gone late. Here, you and I talked about an hour and a half. We're at almost 3.5 hours, and it doesn't even feel like time has been going here. Thank you for spending so much time with us. Um, so nothing's coming through. So Preston, if you would let everybody know what's going on with Preston Dennett right now, things that are going to be coming up that they can check out.
Yeah, I'm doing the Shag Harbor Conference in October in Nova Scotia area. Uh, I've got a new book I'm working on, Symmetry 2, the sequel. My latest book is Symmetry, Not From Here, Volume 5, Humanoids and High Strangeness. I have a website. You can check out my stuff, a YouTube channel. I'm all over social media. I'm easy to contact. If you want your little ET questionnaire or the OBE guide, email me at prestonufo@gmail.com. Otherwise, thanks, Matt. Really enjoyed the conversation. It was fun. And these are important subjects, so I appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. It's been an honor to have you here. It was a blast. And I hope that you'll come back again sometime. And thank you, brother. And if you would do me a favor, if you would hold off for a minute, I'll see you. I'm going to pull you out. I'm going to finish up, and I will see you in the green room for a second.
You got it.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Say goodbye to Preston. Thank you, sir. Guys, wasn't he absolutely phenomenal? I am so honored to have him here. He is a great human being, as you guys saw, a great sense of humor. And that was just a blast. Guys, I want to thank everybody who stuck around for the live stream tonight. Sorry about the beginning. As I said, I'm learning how to use this, and we'll see how things work out when I'm shutting it down. But just to let you guys know, I am in the process of, and I agree, BJ, he was awesome. in the process of putting together us, me and David Wolf from ETS Exposing the Strange, going on site to some places that are, as I've spoken about before, paranormal and all. I'll be talking to BJ about how we can protect ourselves from any hitchhikers. I have a lot coming up. I'm editing about 8 videos right now. So those are going to be coming, a lot of great stuff on Planet 412. So it's going to be exciting. Guys, anybody didn't see, or if you haven't noticed, how about the shirt? You guys like it? I love it. Make sure you go and stop off at the store. This isn't just at one t-shirt. There's hoodies, hats, stickers, posters, tumblers, coffee mugs. You guys can get a bunch of stuff, and there's even more things I'm putting together on that Fourth Wall store on YouTube. So thank you very much for Preston Dennett. Thank you guys, and we will see you next time. Same to you, Louise. Thank you for everything, everybody.